fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson! Anderson's up to him!
Oh my God! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go!
Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
This is your chance to get behind the wheel. The opportunity to race just like the pros. From the grassroots levels, where we all got our start, to the most popular race cars on the planet. From the fairgrounds of Nashville to the high banks of Daytona, to tracks that will never be forgotten. Realistic driving, intense competition, all from the comfort of your own home. This is the ultimate motorsports simulation. This is iRacing.
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV. You know what time it is, the Majors Series, the championship that tests the versatility and adaptability of racing drivers around the globe. Tonight we are racing in the international region for round 11, the Virginia 300, the Chevrolet Monte Carlo SS late model at Martinsville Speedway. This is going to be quite an interesting event. We've got heats leading up into a feature here tonight, and it's a short, sharp, tight, and difficult track here at Martinsville. It's going to be a brilliant night, and to bring it to you all live here on SimSpeed TV is myself, Reese Gardner, with Daniel Yeaman alongside me in the commentary box, Jay Kennedy, of course, on production, bringing you these live pictures across YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Make sure to give us a like on Facebook, SimSpeed Esports Network, to follow all of our updates, and we're also at SimSpeed TV on Twitter. Well, Dan, it's time to get into some more Major Series action, and the international region has really put up some fantastic racing this season. I'm hoping that that's going to continue here, because Martinsville is one heck of a track.
Yeah, we sure hope so indeed. Last time we saw these guys out on the asphalt oval was the World 600 back at Charlotte in 1987. NASCAR's on the iRacing service. So on that one, some fantastic driving, some fantastic long green flag runs in that race as well. I think pretty much the highlights of that one, they're able to get extremely, I think almost double stints in terms of fuel tank runs there in that race there to really test the drivers in terms of their capacity and endurance. But yeah, certainly short, fast and furious racing here at Martinsville with a short track for the schedule tonight. Certainly could be exciting. We hope, cross our fingers, and hope to see these guys have got a good grip on their cars tonight. And well, we'll have a heat to get their eye in if they're needing a bit more race practice. But then, of course, the big one for 200 laps. But in saying that, those laps will go by fairly quickly, of course, given the short length of the circuit here.
Indeed it will, and of course the Majors Series supports a charity every single round. This time around it is going to be Stack Up that we are supporting for this round, a military charity. Veterans are their mission and gaming is their passion. Stack Up supports US and allied veterans by promoting positive mental health and combating veteran suicide through gaming and geek culture through 4 pillar programs: video game care packages, all expenses paid trips to bring veterans to gaming and geek culture events. We've also got volunteer teams engaged in veteran outreach and community betterment projects in their local areas, and also their Overwatch program, 24/7 crisis intervention for veterans. Make sure to go to stackup.org to check them out and lend your support. Well, with 5 minutes remaining in the practice session before we get things started in the racing action proper with a 5-minute qualifying session, let's think about the championship standings. We don't quite have a graphic for you this time, but we can tell you that Robert Northway is still on the top of the standings here in the international region. He's had an absolutely magnificent season. He's 102 points ahead of Thomas Hinz for the championship lead, and Sam Harper is only another 22 points behind Hinzy. So Dan's second is definitely on right now.
It certainly is. I'd love to be able to talk more about the standings, but apparently I can't quite get the website to load here, Reese, unfortunately. Oh, there we go. It comes in just as I make that particular point. So, yeah, you're not wrong. 100 points clear at the top for Northway, but certainly only 22 points in it for that second place position. You look on further back inside the top 10, and it's Shane Bowen currently sitting in P4, 218 points behind Northway, the leader. But Stan Stevens, P5, 281 points back from Northway. Gavin Barber, P6 at 373 behind. Dwayne Burns at P7, 474. He's got Jonathan Bean close behind for in P8 at 488, so another 14-point difference there between Burns and Bean. D Mole's only another 2 points behind in P9. And it's Blake Next still currently rounding out the top 10, though. We haven't seen Blake for a couple of rounds now. And also sitting on there, 7 starts for the Major Series this year is Blake versus the 11 starts for the majority of about half the drivers in the top 10 have all 11 rounds so far to their name, and then a few more on 10. Hinz, Harper, and Bean in particular. They've missed 1 round so far this year.
Indeed, and the sportsman standings are incredibly close, especially when you compare them to the international pro standings that we just discussed. Julian Muki is currently on top in the sportsman standings. His sharp, expensive IT Tech 1 teammate Joshua Robertson is only 15 points behind him, and then a further 6 points back to Dave Trevethan in the independent entry, completing the top 5. Chaston Teets, 52 points behind Muki, and James Catchpole 127 points back. So there's plenty of opportunities here for the championship leading sportsmen to be shaken up. Muki and Robertson are both in the session, and as is Trevethan. So that top 3, they'll be fighting on track to decide who will be leading the championship out of this round.
They will indeed. And yeah, obviously, yeah, back and forth between those two. And also I think important to note that Josh Robertson's missed 2 rounds this season so far, Reese, versus everyone around him in the points standing. So clearly punching up to the top of the table. And yeah, if he hadn't missed 2 rounds already so far this season, I reckon there's a fair chance we would have seen Josh Robertson's name on the top of the board coming into things so far. And once again, as always, once again here at SimSpeed TV, Zoom feed provided thanks to Jay with the production side for tonight. And well, as one of our drivers here, part of the Middle Finger Racing crew, it's Jonathan Bean there on camera, and he's providing us with a baby cam as well tonight here. Young bub there in the back seat. Wonder if he'll be doing any backseat driving. I doubt it. Reese, more maybe just some backseat observing there for the young
crew
one.
chief, strategy advising, stuff like that potentially.
That sounds like a lot of weight on the young one's shoulders.
Start him early, I say. We'll see how that goes then for Jonathan Bean. Best of luck to he and his family here tonight. With Daniel Stevens, of course, the teammate to Jonathan Bean in Middle Finger Racing Pro there, and Dan, of course, upgrading his sim rig recently. He's got a new track racer seat in that spot there, and some brilliant equipment there besides. It's always amazing seeing the Christmas tree of Dan Stevens' rig, and we'll be getting his viewpoint at many different points throughout the race there in car number 3. Stevens is currently in 6th, and oh dear, he's not going to be too happy with that there at the end of the practice session. He'll be hoping that he doesn't do that in qualifying. Martinsville one of the original tracks to be on the NASCAR schedule here. It's been around since the late 1940s, I believe, as a racing venue. So it's definitely got a lot of history baked into that concrete and tarmac mixture. It's concrete through the turns, a little bit of banking through those turns as well, but it's largely a very flat oval that requires an awful lot of braking to make your way around. You have to run the brake bias quite far to the rear to get the rotation required to get around those tight hairpin corners. Either way, practice is over. Checkered flag flies, and a celebratory spin there at the end of the session from our championship leader, Robert Northway, as we get into our 5 minutes of qualifying. Every driver is going to get 4 laps to set their time for the heat grids, and these heats are just going to be 2 heats of 10 cars purely about setting the grid for the 200-lap main. So we'll decide the starting order of the heats right now. And the number 25 is among the cars out first. That's Gavin Barber, another driver in the Middle Finger Racing crew. And of course, typical for MFR, he has gone all out on his rig. He's actually running a motion platform.
Indeed, that's no loose rig there. Don't worry about that one here. As we see Barber begin this first flying lap around Martinsville, nice and low through turns 1 and 2, and then get it up to the fence, get close there, but certainly don't want to be invalidating your times here and scraping those walls. Looks nice and tidy here on the opening one from Barber. One of the first across the line here in the 25 machine, and he'll jump to a provisional time of 20.46. It's eclipsed by Shane Bowen on 20.32 in the number 7 machine. That looked a little loose on the exit of turn 2 there to start lap 2. Let's see if he can keep the pace up here in the next couple of runs as qualifying will wrap up pretty quickly here. Yeah, 20 seconds a lap. We should all be done here in about 2 minutes, depending on how guys go when it comes to getting out of the lane. And Gavin Barber stays out. A couple of drivers have ducked back into the pits, I see. Dwayne Burns currently on the top with the 20.19 so far.
Yeah, and Dwayne is part of the Kinetic Avatar Racing crew, which is dominating the Teams Championship in the Pro Division, which is fantastic to see for them. Meanwhile, Thomas Hins for Henry James Racing is the second place driver in the Pro standings, 20.3 for that time there. Hinsey is currently in 4th with a 20.248. He'll be hoping to go a little bit faster on this lap with 3 minutes remaining in the qualifying session, and trying his best to keep the mid-corner speed up here in the Chevrolet Monte Carlo SS late model. Hinsey setting a 20.298, 500ths off his fastest, and going wide there. It looks like his run is done there. Dwayne Burns still on top as we check out the Kinetic Avatar Racing driver of Dean Mole, who's currently way down in the standings, 19th at the moment. He's been struggling to get a competitive time down. 20.7 is his current best. He does improve on that, goes up to a 20.6. That gives him 2 positions, but he's immediately pipped to 17th by Joshua Robertson, who sets a 20.643. So your top 7 currently all international pro drivers. The rest of them, save for Northway, Ben, and Mole, are all in the sportsman division, and I'm surprised to see Robert Northway that low down. It seems like he didn't quite get the time down that he wanted there.
Consider the fact also too that Northway actually had the fastest time in practice, a 20.160. So yeah, 4/10 off his own personal best so far, all things considered, relative to the session there. And well, that's going to make Northway's work a little bit harder. Of course, with the way the iRacing heat system works, it'll go basically, the first heat will be all of our drivers in odd qualifying positions, and then we will transition to the even positions in qualifying for those who take part in heat number 2. But here's how the top 10 stands currently, as it looks like everyone has done just about all of their laps. In fact, the only exception is Northway, who's currently out there circulating right now. So walking through the top 10 real quick as we wait for Northway to finish things up. Although he's just gone purple in the first sector here, so we might watch Northway jump to the top. It's Dwayne Burns at the top for now on a 20.189, but Northway might just move himself up in the world.
Yeah, there we go.
And there you go. He's just been waiting a little bit, as Robert Northway. He finally seals the deal and puts himself back up where his pace would have suggested. 20.128, 600ths clear at the top is all it is here tonight to get this grid going for the Virginia 300. Dwayne Burns there will have to settle for P2. in the session. Then it's Dan Stevens in P3, Josh Thomas in P4, Sam Harper rounds out your top 5, and it's Thomas Hinz, Gavin Barber, and Shane Bowen to make it 8 pro drivers in the field there at the front half of the top 10, I should say. And then it'll be Julian Mookie to be the fastest of our sportsman cars ahead of Phil Otto to round out the top 10 outright here race.
Yep, championship top 3 all in the top 5 there. Good to see. Jake Fox is going to line up 11th with Matt Chalker and Simon Francis behind there in the qualifying session. Stuart Elder and James Catchpole round out the top 15 times. And then we got Bain, Mole, Robertson, Trevethan and Hawkins rounding out our 20-car field. We will move very shortly into the heats. And we will see how things stack up. Here is our zoom wall. We've got Thomas Hinz, of course, in the top left. He insists that those cushions on the bed are not his. Jonathan Bean, of course, taking care of Bub in between sessions. Gavin Barber just coming back from a break there. Dan Stevens just chilling, as is Robert Northway in the bottom right. There we go then. The session is over, and we can move on into the first of our 2 heats here tonight. 25 laps of racing coming up, and starting on pole for this one, of course, is going to be Robert Northway. Daniel Stevens is going to line up alongside him, qualifying in 3rd. Sam Harper and Gavin Barber share the 2nd row with Julian Mookie, Sportsman Championship leader, and Jake Fox rounding out the top 6. Then we've got Simon Francis and James Catchpole lining up 7th and 8th, and the 10 cars are rounded out by Dean Mole and Dave Trevethan. Now we just wait for the gridding time to complete and for the pace car to pull away. And we'll be able to see what kind of racing we can get around Martinsville, Dan. It's definitely a track where outbraking your opponent is key to getting a pass started, but completing it is a different matter entirely. It's all about traction.
It is going to be very important there. Yeah, how well you look after the front tyres in the main race, that is, when we get to it. Obviously, these shorter heat races will should be able to keep the pace up most of the way through. But then again, these are late model cars. This is a short track oval. It might all be it might be pretty hard on the tyre wear here. So we'll see how things go. And Stevens jumps on the radio straight away there to remind Northway to watch out for the man on his outside there as the Northway swung around. We will get a 2-lap formation period here, given the short lap around this circuit. Indeed, yeah, one of the homes of short track racing from the very beginning. 1955, Reese, that this circuit actually became an asphalt venue.
I was
but
a bit
actually,
off the mark.
Yes, and unfortunately, but yeah, first event was back in 1947 when it was a half-mile dirt track. So yeah, a very long history here at Martinsville, and yeah.
Indeed.
1949 it came onto the NASCAR calendar. So it has actually seen racing as both a dirt track and an asphalt track for NASCAR competition. Pace car pulls down onto the pit lane, Reese. We wait for, I believe, the restart zone here tonight on the front straight on the exit of turn 4. Come around here, and there is the Geico signage, which actually we can't see. The green flag is waved by our Barney on the stand. We get this first heat underway.
We do, and Robert Northway leads into turn 1, and Dan Stevens trying to fend off Sam Harper around the outside, gets it done. Nice exit there. Northway is streaking away from the rest of the pack already. It's side by side for 5th. Meanwhile, Jake Fox just passing Gavin Barber there on the inside, pushing Gavin back into 6th place, and they go briefly single file. It's a very early entry to the corners there from the 08 of Jake Fox. He's trying his best to make a V shape out of these corners. We ride on board with Barber as he looks forward at the rest of the field.
Yeah, looking good so far. All getting single file for the time being, it would seem. So getting ourselves nice and tidy here in these first ones. And indeed, start zone is turned on. So yeah, just wanted to confirm that fact there before I kept going on about it. So we didn't quite see it there from the cameras at the race start, but with the recent iRacing updates, the Geico restart zone has been added to whole host of the NASCAR Cup Series. So you just see it there on the inside wall as these cars flash by to start the 3rd lap of this session as they make their way once again round into turn number 1 and 2. And you see here, Julian Mookie leading Jake Fox still, but Gavin Barber is in behind. It was Fox though. You can see he's opting to try and be a lot more of that V shape, as you were saying there, Reese. Try and get the car pulled up aggressively there. So far though, going to stay as they are as they continue to circulate around here.
We also saw just before a swap for position between the Real Bad Racing teammates of James Catchpole and Simon Francis, and it seems that Francis has not had a particularly good start there. He was struggling a little bit for grip and so let Catchpole by. Francis is back into 8th now. And Dave Trevethan is keeping them all honest here, trailing at the back of the field right now, but still within a good margin of Dean Mole there, just 6/10 behind. So if anything happens ahead, then Trevethan will certainly be there to capitalise. For now, though, it seems that there's a good amount of space being given by everyone, and as the race goes on, this is when drivers will start getting into a rhythm. They'll be used to the cars in race conditions, and they'll be able to try and work out some moves. We check out Fox once again as he tries to vault forward on Julian Mookie. You can tell that he's definitely a lot more aggressive on corner entry, and it seems to be working for him.
Yeah, holding station for the time being. You can just see Mookie holding it up high through turn 1, brings it down lower into that groove at turn 2 to then get the exit down a little bit earlier. In fact, I think that's paying off a little bit more for Mookie here. Just holding it up high through 1 and 3, coming down lower to the curb there at 2 and 4, and straightening his exit up. Jake Fox's entry is getting him time on the way in, but it seems to be losing a fair bit of time now on the way out. Unable to get the power down this time, though. You can see really backs it off and pulls it in tight there as they round turns 1 and 2. They've got, you can see they're one of our pro drivers, Gavin Barber, just in behind them here, but looks like the 25 of Barber not in a position to really push all that hard right this second. So he'll happily stay there. It's P6 outright, P4 in the class for the 25 machine.
Indeed it is. Well, Gavin doing all right here to try and catch up to Jake Fox. It seems that those attempts by Fox to get onto the back of Mookie are not working too well for him now. His tyres might have been overheated slightly, and now he's falling back into the clutches of Gavin Barber. We'll see now what he can do to fend off Mr. Barber here as we look on board from the back. Looked like a tiny bit of oversteer in the middle of the corner there for Gavin, but manages to keep it moving forward somewhat. And you can see that Fox is really taking it easy on corner entry now. He's definitely falling back from Mookie.
Little bump into the wall on the exit of 2 for Barber there.
Ooh.
Roughs up the right side panels of the 25 machine. And in fact, so much so we actually see that the guard has been completely punched in there at the left front corner
no.
on the 25. He should obviously be okay here into the second half of this race now with 13 laps to go as we start lap 13. But yeah, just pushed a little too hard there in behind the 08 here of Jake Fox, and as a result, little comparable. Just compromised the exit of turn 2 last time, but even so, looks a little more comfortable in the car at this stage of the race still compared to that 08 head. You can see here into 1 and 2. This time it's going to be Barber who gets a little bit higher up through turn 1 to bring it down to the curb to exit turn 2. And then she's going to show the nose here into turn 3. Not close enough though to get up the inside and make the move stick, but Fox just drifts up in the middle of turn 4, but then able to hang on and cover it off. Just actually slows down Barber a touch on the exit as well for good measure.
Yeah, it does indeed. That's a big shame to see for those guys. They're starting to lose touch here with the top 5 overall, or top 4 rather, but I'm seeing that Mookie is, you know, he's occasionally falling within the 1 second margin of Jake Fox, but it seems that that is definitely a battle for 5th between Fox and Barber right now. You can see that Fox is really keeping it tight towards the inside of those corners, just trying to shorten his way around. But, oh, there we go. Barber going a bit more towards the inside on entry this time around. Doesn't seem to have worked out for him. That is interesting to see there. I've noticed that from Fox every so often. He's actually narrowing up the exit somewhat. He's not taking a wide arc out to the exit. You see it again there. Looks to me like he's focusing now on just straightening up the exit as much as possible to try and look after his front tyres.
Yeah, it is a good point to make there indeed. You would think, obviously, in most cases, you try and maximise every millimetre of width you can get in the circuit. You see it certainly from the 25 Barber up towards the wall. And actually, no, pardon me, Barber this time will sort of roughly follow Fox's exit trajectory. But you see this time, loosen up high there for the 08 through turns 3 and 4. That'll bring Barber not that much closer, but about half a car length. And again, Barber now showing the nose into turn 1 as they come through the corner. But again, nice down on the curb there for Fox. Means that the exit is nice and straight away from the wall there by a quarter width, I'd say, and a little bit narrow, but it does seem to be working for the most. I'm just going to keep it composed through 3 and 4, unlike what we saw there last time. 20 underway now here as we go on board with Fox, and just grab the apex curve there a little bit there through 1 and 2, and that, again, a little upset for the car's momentum through the corner. Gavin Barber just that little bit closer once again as a result.
Indeed. This is going to be interesting here for third and sportsman in this heat, as Barber just kissed the wall on the exit once again.
Against Fox.
Yeah. Okay. It looks like this is going to be a case of avoiding the curbs for Fox and avoiding the wall for Barber, as Barber goes a bit deep, unfortunately. Running a bit wide of the apex, and if you're off the racing line on the concrete, there is absolutely no grip out there. So you've got to try and keep it on the racing line, on that rubber, as much as you possibly can. Interesting how the surface works at a track like this. With porous tarmac, usually the rubber goes into the road surface, but if it's concrete, then the rubber sits on top of the road surface, and that creates a little bit of a difference in grip conditions. It can be very grippy on concrete, but you go immediately off the racing line and you will definitely spin. 3 laps to go then for our leader, Robert Northway, who has been completely untroubled in the lead of this race by 1.7 seconds over Daniel Stevens.
Yeah, indeed. It's a small number on the timing tower, all things considered, but here at an oval, which is barely 20 seconds in length, 1.5 seconds is, well, quite a substantial chunk you're approaching. 10% of your lap length here as he brings it out of 1 and 2, already on the final lap of this first heat. We can bring up the zoom feed as well for the driver of the 46. Round turns 3 and 4 for the final time here in the heat, and it will be Northway. Converts his qualifying pole position to a Heat 1 race win, and therefore the pole position for the feature race. And it's come together. Jake Fox and Gavin Barber do tangle wheels. What has happened there right at the end of this race?
Yeah, well, Barber crosses the line ahead of James Catchpole and Jake Fox. Oh man, Catchpole got a free position out of that one. I don't think we'll have time to go for a replay there. We'll have to check out the results because we're immediately into the grid for Heat 2. We might check it out during the warm-up. So Northway from Stevens from Harper, that's your podium. Mookie, Barber, Catchpole, Fox, Francis, Mole, and Trevethan. That is your finishing order. But very curious to see Gavin Barber and Jake Fox come together on the run to the start-finish line on the final lap. Here we go then. Getting into Heat 2. Starting on pole position is going to be Dwayne Burns. And the number 19 is going to have Josh Thomas starting alongside him, with Thomas Hins and Shane Bowen taking up the second row. Phil Otto and Matt Chalker are 5th and 6th, our first 2 sportsman drivers in this heat. Stuart Elder will start alongside Jonathan Bain, and then it's Josh Robertson and Craig Hawkins who round out our field, and they're already pulling away behind the iRacing pace car. Let's see then another view of this incident between Jake Fox and Gavin Barber. So Fox goes a little bit deep in the final corner, and Barber thinks, okay, the gap's open, I'm going to go for it. And unfortunately, the door closed by the time he was trying to go through it.
Yeah, it's a welcome to short track racing. And I want to catch maybe James Catchpole there for a moment, potentially. We do have waiting on one of our cars, actually, Josh Thomas yet to take it to the grid. No, pardon me. My apologies. I'm not on live pitches. I'll take that back. They're already pacing as you return to the actual live pitches. I'll just hit myself with a wet fish later on, as Thomas wasn't quite on the grid at the time. Actually, pardon me. Josh Thomas has not taken to the grid for this one, Reese. So we are down a driver, the 386, and I can possibly see why a late that connection drop in the in-game chat feed was not recent. Was not there. As of recent start, we'll actually promote everyone on the left side, or on the outside lane, up a couple of spots here. So it's going to be Dwayne Burns and Shane Bowen who take the green flag from the front of this field here as the pace car pulls on off. And they'll have to come around into the Geico restart zone here on the exit of turn 4. It's still a long way down the track here. And kissing us in tight. Get the green flag there from Barney on the flag tower. And we get this second heat underway. Nice and tidy. Off the start, be single file between your top 2, but look at that around the outside. It's going to be Matt Chalker trying to make a move, but he will run up too high there into the marbles. Thomas Hins will take back P3 here on the exit of turn 2.
And the trouble is not over for Chalker. He's going to have to let Phil Otto by on the inside. He's also contending with Jonathan Bean, who's trying to make up spots here. Bean started 8th, now up into 6th. That's a pretty good way to go for him. But car's running a little bit wide here at the start. And it looks like this race is a lot closer than Heat 1 was, because that top 3, my goodness, Hinsey is trying around the outside for 2nd again versus Shane Bowen. He is right on the back of this Kinetic Avatar duo of Burns and Bowen, who have been racing together in the same team for years. Formerly, oh goodness, Hinsey. Got to keep it nice and stable, mate. He is concentrating massively, as you can see on the Zoom feed, but he's just struggling to find a way past him at the moment. Does look like he has the pace in race conditions, though.
That's the pace so far, but we saw it a little bit from Jake Fox, of course, in Heat 1. Pushed too hard early on here. The tyres will drop off even in this short heat racing format here tonight. It's also important to note, actually, speaking of tyre drop-off and such, these guys here today only have 3 tyre sets available over the course of the race. So they'll have to make sure they watch out and they do not burn up their tyre chain or their available tyre sets, since they've only got 2 sets they can change in the pits, despite it being a 200-lap race to come shortly. As we look how close Hinz is getting here off the exit of turn 4. So right on board with the number 7 is Shane Bowen. He's just going the nose into turns 1 and 2. Trying to force Bowen to open the door there, but Bowen not blinking just yet. Josh Thomas there, got on track just in time there to take the start of the race once they'd all come round 1 and 2, and has made up a spot here already up into P number 9. But we'll be starting the feature at this rate a long way down from where his qualifying pace suggests he should be, Rhys.
Yes, big battle going on here with Bean, Elder and Robertson all fighting in a pack here for 6th, 7th and 8th. And Bean has got a little bit of extra company here, and in more ways than one, both in sim and in the real world. So he's definitely got his eyes forward, but we'll have to wait and see if he can keep that concentration up here, as he's really coming under an attack here from Stuart Elder. This is some fantastic racing happening at the moment. Bean just running defensive, going down the middle of the road on the way into turns 3 and 4. Of course, I always get my turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 confused, but it seems it's almost bumper to bumper now between Bean and Elder, and they're starting to get Josh Robertson there onto the back of them. Josh Thomas is another 2nd behind that, so if this battling keeps going, we could be looking at a 5-car fight. As yes, up the front, there's attempted a move from Thomas Hinz up the inside of Shane Bowen, and it's not successful. That has really increased the gap there for Dwayne Burns, and he can breathe a little bit easier in the lead.
Can indeed. My Hinsey got up the inside there, but had to lock the brakes to not run so hot into turn 1 here that he completely ran into the side or the left rear corner of the number 7 of Bowen here. And, well, maybe just getting a hint of who's got legs underneath them tonight. Looks like it might be Hinz who's got the long run formers inside nose there for Josh Robertson. They actually dropped Stuart Elder, and Elder's just got involved with Josh Thomas further on back at turn 4. And unfortunately, oh dear, the 115 ends up 90 degrees across the track, and we do get ourselves a caution period here in heat number 2. So a little bit to unpack there on lap number 11, Rhys. So time to jump to the virtual racing school replay in a moment to try and process what's happened there in this, what was the fight for P6.
Indeed. Well, we check a bit further back. It looks like Thomas went into the back of Elder there at the coming into the turn, and from then on it was almost a carbon copy of the incident we saw to end race or heat 1. Sorry, we get another view of it here. It was I mean, you know, it was a reasonable attempt at a move there from Thomas. I don't think he was expecting Elder to slow at the apex as much as he did.
Elder's hanging just at a half car width up off the bottom, trying to open things up now. I think it's also important to note Elder's dropped off the trio ahead, or the pair of Bean and Robertson ahead of him. So as we can just see, just a little bit up high, a little bit slower down the corner, probably trying to diamond the corner, V the corner a little bit more there than Robertson was trying for there. Or pardon me, Thomas was trying for there. Unfortunately, that has seen him back down the order a bit there. Is just seeing also one of our other sportsman cars, Craig Hawkins in the 14, has... Oh, Josh Robertson's come unstuck under the caution here somehow.
Okay, that's interesting. I did notice that Robertson was shifting positions somewhat as Elder makes his way into the pits to get some damage repair. Robertson still...
Oh.
Oh?
Yeah, so Robertson, right as the caution came out, was trying to get past the 013 of, the 019 of Jonathan Bean. Actually, yeah, just sent it in too hard to turn 1, and as a result, lost a spot to Craig Hawkins as the caution flag came out, and he gathered it back up, did a full-on slide, got the rear loose, and went around 90 degrees. So unfortunately for Robertson, has put himself a bit behind the 8 ball in terms of where he'd rather be, as we stay under caution for at least one more lap here. But looks like Stuart Elder is going to get out in time here to join the back of the train and stay on the lead lap of this race.
Yep, that's the beauty of taking pits in short tracks under caution. If you take a stop under green flag conditions, it's almost guaranteed that you're going to go a lap down. But if you manage to get your pit stop in while the pace car is out on track, you stand a lot less of a chance of losing a lap unless you have very heavy damage. Every driver gets one fast repair in the Majors series, and I presume in this heat format that is one fast repair per race.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
I can confirm from our own experience elsewhere that, yeah, the iRacing system doesn't allow you to set per race type limits. As we get the green flag from Barney there, I think Dwayne Burns with a massive jump on the inside. In fact, Thomas Hinton now is going to have himself prime option for P2 here up the inside. Shane Bowen left looking like he was standing still off that restart there, Reese, and almost pressured by teammate Phil Otto this time in the 013. As further on back, Bean and Robertson almost together on the inside of 3 and 4. It is on between these guys for these spots here in this heat race. I mean, if this is sort of the prelude to what we're going to see in the feature, we might get a few more cautions at this rate if they're not careful.
Yeah, got to take it easy, everybody. As almost into the wall goes Jonathan Bean to try and keep Josh Robertson behind him. It was a bit of a slow start from Craig Hawkins, which kind of messed things up in the midfield. Stuart Elder is right on the back of these guys. Meanwhile, Thomas Hinz has made his way up into second, and he is pressuring Dwayne Burns massively now for the lead of this race, as it's side by side again now between Robertson and Bean. Robertson now on the inside. A pass will take about a lap to complete here at Martinsville, as switching to the inside goes Josh Thomas to try and take advantage of this. A 3-car fight now, and this is all for position number 6. As up the inside goes Josh Thomas. Will Jonathan Bean be able to power it round the outside to keep the position? Looks like Thomas has drawn enough alongside that he can actually outbrake him into turns 3 and 4, and it looks like that is how it's going to work out. Through goes Josh Thomas, last season's sportsman champion, now in the pro class for this season, but they're going to have to work on Josh Robertson a little bit more. Thomas Hinz, though, still pressuring Dwayne Burns as we have 5 laps to go.
We do indeed. Now, obviously, note the way the heat system works here and what that does to the grid is this will set up basically the outside lane for the grid of the features. So every spot you get here in this heat race is worth 2 places, an entire row forward on the feature race grid, and if you can get yourself that little bit further forward, certainly I'm sure that would be appreciated by many of these guys here. So it would explain a little bit of the aggression for a couple of these guys, because yeah, every row forward there's less cars you have to worry about here. 3 laps to go, and you can see Thomas Hinz still trying to work a high entry into turn 1 to really square down and straighten off the exit for turn 2. And he's going to look to the inside this time through turns 3 and 4. So really trying to get in the mirrors and the mind of Dwayne Burns, but it's going to be 2 to go, and the 19 still holds the lead. Shane Bowen keeping close enough company to be a potential threat here if something goes awry here between your top 2. As long as we get the white flag here, we're staying green to wrap this heat up nice and promptly, Reese. And, well, question is, does Thomas Hinz have something magic left in that 53 machine to snatch away the heat win here as we get the white flag from Barney?
Yep, well, to the inside early from Dwayne Burns to try and keep Hins behind him, but Hinsey tries a late apex. There might be a dive here. Hinsey's looking, and he tries to get alongside, but Burns goes a little bit deeper into the corner, squares it off beautifully, and that's going to give Dwayne Burns the win here in Heat 2. Hins and Bowen will complete your podium, and then we have got Phil Otto winning the sportsman class heat there. Fantastic stuff from all of these guys. And now we can take a very short break as we go through those results. Burns by 3/10 from Hins, Bowen on the podium, Otto, Chalker and Robertson complete your top 6 in the sportsman podium, with Josh Thomas and Jonathan Bain unfortunately coming a cropper at various points during that race, as did Stuart Elder. Craig Hawkins finishing 10th there. Well, now we've got a 5-minute warm-up period, and we can get prepared for this 200-lap race coming up. Only half a mile in length, this track at Martinsville, so it'll probably go a bit quicker than you think. We're going to step aside briefly on SimSpeed TV as the drivers make their way out onto the track to get some final practice in. You're watching the International Majors Series here at Martinsville Speedway.
This is your chance to get behind the wheel. The opportunity to race just like the pros. From the grassroots levels, where we all got our start, to the most popular race cars on the planet. From the fairgrounds of Nashville to the high banks of Daytona, to tracks that will never be forgotten. Realistic driving, intense competition, all from the comfort of your own home. This is the ultimate motorsports simulation. This is iRacing.
You're watching the Virginia 300, the 11th round of the international region of the Majors Series. We're at Martinsville Speedway in the Chevrolet Monte Carlo SS late model. I'm Reese Gardner, Dan Yeaman alongside me in the commentary box. Well, Dan, we're getting ready for our 200-lap feature here tonight. Thanks very much, Jay Kennedy, for doing everything behind the scenes. Dan and I are just the guys that talk over the pictures he brings to you. Dan Stevens has given us some pit stop info. So you can take 2 tires or 4 tires in a stop, and basically it's 10 to 11 seconds for 2 tires, 21 to 23 seconds for 4 tires, and it looks like a pit lane transit with 4 tires plus filling up the fuel tank would probably be around the 44-second mark. So if you don't pit under caution, you could go 2 laps down. But Dan, we have received some news that some drivers will be starting on a full tank of fuel.
That is very true indeed. The crucial part there being the fuel tank range in these Chevrolet Monte Carlo late model machines is unfortunately only around 185 laps based on testing and just the fuel mileage here being about 0.43 to 0.47 litres a lap according to our data we've got available. And that, well, 83 litre tank here in this one. That's how you get your 185 laps. It's 22 gallons to be precise. So keep that in mind there. It will mean that things are going to be interesting here. Now, of course, we get cautions in this feature race like we saw there in Heat 2. That will allow the drivers to stretch their tanks a little bit longer, since unlike the dirt racing stuff, such as the Modified Mayhem that we had as part of round number 9 of the Majors Series this year, caution laps will count. Thankfully, we won't be stuck doing 200 green flag laps in Martinsville. That certainly would take quite some time to get through. Even so, yeah, at 20 seconds a lap, we'll be pretty fast and furious to this one. Looks like I'd be estimating somewhere in the tune of maybe about 2 hours. Am I getting that right? Five laps a sec. Well, 5 laps a minute times 60. No, pardon me. We'd be done in inside an hour if it goes green all the way.
So yeah,
It's 300 laps an hour is what we can get through potentially there or thereabouts.
Indeed. So if you're looking for short, sharp action, hope that there'll be no cautions and we'll be done in around about 45 minutes or thereabouts. But we know the nature of short track racing. And through my commentary with our friends at Global Sim Racing Channel, I've called enough short track oval races to know that Martinsville is a place where cautions are the order of the day. So we'll have to wait and see just how many cautions we get. Of course, Dan, you've got some overlays on your end that will hopefully tell you how many cautions we get throughout the course of this race. I'll probably be keeping a manual tally on my end as we go into the race session. The track to expect the unexpected is Martinsville Speedway. We can go through the grid that has been set by the finishing order of the heats. On the inside, it's going to be Robert Northway on pole, starting alongside Dwayne Burns, who won Heat 2. Daniel Stevens will start alongside Thomas Hinz. Then it's Sam Harper and Shane Bowen, who will round out the top 6. In 7th place, it is going to be Julian Mookie taking the sportsman pole alongside Phil Otto. Gavin Barber and Matt Chalker will round out the top 10 cars. Then we've got James Catchpole and Josh Robertson starting 11th and 12th.
And your final 8 cars for this one is going to be Jake Fox in the 08 machine, starting out of P number 13. You've got Josh Thomas alongside for 14th. Simon Francis and Jonathan Bean to make it another Sportsman Pro combo row there on the 8th one of this grid. Dean Mole will take the inside of row 9. Stuart Elder on his outside there in 18th place. And then Dave Trevethan in the 521, starting out of P19 with Craig Hawkins out of P20. Basically, in other words, your Heat 1 drivers in their finishing order on your inside lane to start this one. Your Heat 2 drivers to start in their finishing order in the outside lane for this feature race. So we'll get another 2-lap gridding period here as they make their way down the back stretch and get ready to rumble here for the Virginia 300 in the international region of the Major Series 2022. And, well, yeah. After, as I said, our last oval round on the asphalt, Charlotte Motor Speedway, the 1987 NASCARs. Quite the different challenge, all things considered here. This is the home of oval racing, the heart of what oval racing is at a local level in America, I'm sure. At least I'm going to make an educated guess there on that one. And, well, this certainly has all the potential to be a really good one here. Could be a crazy one. It depends on how these drivers choose to play their cards tonight. Pace car going to bring it on down into the pit lane, and we wait for the restart zone to be in the hands of the 46 there, Robert Northway, to get this one underway soon.
Indeed, entering the restart zone presently, and Robert Northway will then choose to go wherever he decides. The green flag flies and we are away. That is an excellent jump from Robert Northway to start the Virginia 300. Dwayne Burns keeps second, but he has to go a little bit high there to give a bit of room to Daniel Stevens on the inside. Oh, yep, already we got a car around and the yellow flag is out. Looks like it was James Catchpole who got spun around there thanks to contact with Jake Fox.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, we've also got some drama at the front of the field here, Reese.
Have we?
We do indeed. Your pole sitter has been given a black flag for start procedure infringement.
Uh-oh. Well,
And indeed we see there, unfortunately for the 021 of Catchpole, being given a helping hand by Jake Fox into turn 1. Brings out the caution as a car across the road here. So we'll see here why he's been pinged. Inside the restart zone, goes with the green flag, as far as I can tell from the audio cues. But despite that, Northway's been pinged for some iRacing start violation. And if I heard him correctly over the in-game radio, it's quite a lengthy stop and hold in the pit box that he'll have to serve under green, which will mean that he will go, he reckons, 2 laps down.
Oh, dear. Well, that's a mystery, isn't it? Because, yeah, I've just checked that start from Robert Northway myself, and he was inside the Geico signage that denotes the restart zone when he put the power down. Of course, Jay Kennedy, much more familiar with oval racing than we are, so he might be able to tell us something in the background that that helps us. There's potential that Northway might have been going too fast before he got into the zone. I'm just going to check his speed when he entered the restart zone. Looks to me like 42 miles an hour when he hit the Geico signage. So not too sure if that's enough for a start infringement or not.
Yes. Yeah, I've got my numbers here in metric as I do for being a road racer, and yeah, under 70 kilometers per hour as he's passing by the start of the zone, and the drivers around him. Well, you've got Dwayne Burns on the outside going faster. Just asked to compare to the pace car speed, which here at Martinsville, 64 kilometers per hour, so
40 miles an hour.
Fractionally above the pace car speed, but in that case, there'd be a lot of other drivers who also would get a black flag for starting infringements, you'd think. Unfortunately for Northway, looks like he's going to have to bring the 46 down the lane and pray for a couple of waiver rounds as the race goes on. He'll try again here with the restart zone off of turn 4. Goes nice and late, gets the green flag from iRacing. We get this race back underway. Lap number 6 already of 200, despite not actually getting all that much green flag running just yet.
Indeed. Well, as far as we know, the leader is the only one who can get the infringement for the restart zone penalty, as Northway brings it into the lane there immediately to serve his penalty. The rest of the race is going to be a battle from that way forward for him. If he hasn't started on a full tank, he can afford to top it up and try to go for the long run here after he completes his stop and hold. So that promotes Dwayne Burns to the lead of the race. Daniel Stevens and Thomas Hinz now your top 3, and they are covered by 0.6 of a second as they make their way around turns 3 and 4 to begin the 9th lap of this race. The 8th lap, sorry. I was looking in the wrong place. Either way, there's plenty of racing going on all throughout this field, and Hinze, as we saw in the heats, is already on the back of drivers ahead of him trying to get by.
Indeed, and yeah, how's that for pain with the pace car, or the pit speed limit, pardon me, and the way the pit cones are marked here at Martinsville. Northway barely got to his pit box before the leaders came around to almost lap him at the start finish. He's now 2 laps down and still serving out that penalty. 30 seconds in the box for his infringement. He will come back out 2 laps off your leaders as they all streak down into turns 3 and 4 here for their 9th lap in this race. Whereas unfortunately, yeah, back on lap number 7 for the number 46. And yeah, well, talk about one of the more painful penalties for that one there. Well, the field is mostly single file, but yeah, it's certainly on for P2. Dan Stevens having to keep an eye on Thomas Hinz up there in his mirrors. 53 looking very racy on these opening stint runs here, and looking to the outside through turns 1 and 2 momentarily on entry, but tucked back in line as they head on out of turn number 2 here. Lap 11 of 200 already complete. A couple of drivers just finding the wall as well, Reese. That looks like notably it was Josh Robertson and Matt Chalker in particular, who just gave the tiniest graze to the wall on the exit of turn 2 that time by.
Yeah, seems like it. Here is that battle for 9th. Chalker, Robertson, Fox and Thomas all battling hard here over this position. And it looks like Robertson is trying to line up Chalker here, who's almost just grazing the wall on the exit and nearly bumper to bumper on the way into turns 3 and 4. It's very difficult to get the right line here because, you know, it seems like a consistent radius throughout these turns of Martinsville, and it largely is. Oh, no, that is very wide for one of the kinetic avatar cars.
Jake Fox.
Yeah, Fox out in the marbles there, and he had to give space to James Catchpole on the exit, who's going to get the real bad racing car by, or at least try to. Fox going deep into the turn to try and keep the position, but to no avail. He's going to have to slot behind the number 021.
Given a helping hand, potentially, well, would have been accidental between teammates there, but it was Josh Thomas directly behind him.
Oh, yeah.
Kinetic avatar car in the 386, and we know Thomas out of position thanks to missing the grid procedure for Heat 2. He should have been up towards the front of that heat, which would have put him towards the front of the outside row of this one had he stayed in place. Had to make his way through that heat order and got a couple of spots in the process only. So definitely down on position compared to what his qualifying pace indicates. We'll see if that converts to race pace and, well, being able to keep his nose clean in the process. You can see our top 3 small breakaway from 4th and 5th, but then it's a bigger breakaway back to P6. So very much now a race of your top 5 in this opening phase. We already come through lap 16 of 200. And yeah, they're keeping the lap times in that 20-second bracket for the time being. Starting to see a little bit of drop-off, though. The the tune of about a tenth so far in this one, it would seem.
Indeed, and wow, I'm checking further back in the field as well, just going through the cars, and it looks like Jonathan Bean has picked up some massive rear end damage at some point. Have a look at his wing.
Oh yes,
there is a sizable dent in the rear bumper of that Monte Carlo, and that looks suspicious from Stuart Elder. There's a lot of damage to the front of his car, so I'm going to put on my detective hat and say those two might have come together at some point.
Yeah, it's a pretty reasonable observation, I would suggest. What I can say is that front end of the 115 NRG machine, it looked out of place by the time we came under caution in this race, I might add. So something happening quite early on in this one. In fact, it may have even been the pace lap, if I'm particularly rememberable. Fortunately, memory's not quite where it wanted to be. Oh, exit turn 4, Chalker and Thomas get together. It backs up Robertson in the number 11 zone, and Francis is going to come through. Contact between Chalker and Francis in the process, and then, yeesh! Catchpole and Robertson almost get together there in the process. It is all kinds of elbows out between various drivers here. And to be honest, that's actually, again, that time was a definite issue between J.M. Thomas and one of his teammates at Kinetic Avatar. We suspected it moments ago earlier. Now it's another driver, most definitely, as we see here at the back of the field. Bit of a, how that checked everyone up in the process there, Reese. All the way back here to Dean Mole and Dave Trevethan in 15th and 16th, where these guys are fighting over spots just at the back end of the top 10.
Oh, and up the inside of Simon Francis, tries the number 11 of Josh Robertson. It doesn't work. Robertson holds onto it, but round the outside is going to go James Catchpole. And now Jake Fox will be trying to make his way past as a result. We see Robert Northway in there as well, in the Cheetos liveried car. Remember, he is still 2 laps down on everyone else, so he's going to have to try and fight his way through here to try and get some clear air and make up some time. Hope that another caution is going to come out and get a wave around, but you see already the pace difference that he's having to deal with here. He's having to back off a little bit in the braking zones just not to run into these guys, but he's got his work cut out for him as he goes to the inside. Oh dear, yes, that is very high there from Robertson.
Catchpole and Robertson again getting together. More nose and Coulter very much now getting to the case of it seems we've got drivers who are not afraid to use their nose to potentially help someone aside, perhaps. Oh, there's a little nudge between Catchpole and Fox on the run into one. There's all kinds of argy-bargy. And as a result, Robert Northway's going to go make it almost 3 wide into turn 3 here. And, oh my goodness, there's all kinds of action. Chalk up the inside. They have Catchpole here. They're going to just rub shoulders there on the exit of 4. And then it's Trevethan and Robertson further on back there. Northway wants in to try and just keep getting spots so he can get close to the lead of the race and be in position to get a lap back at some point later on with the wave round procedures. Right, this has come down a fraction. Catchpole almost runs into the rear of Jake Fox just whilst I'm saying that. I was just wanted to say, just acknowledging the YouTube chat watching along. A big thanks to Ryan Steele there with a point to us. That the particular rules on the iRacing start zones is that your leader has to wait for the green flag. In fact, I probably could have, Indeed. Indeed. In fact, iRacing rules, it's literally right here in front of us. I should have read this. Indeed. Quote from iRacing's rules tab when you're on an oval here now with restart zones. It's the starter or the flagger, i.e. The illustrious, ever-glorious Barney, the flagman, who has control of the initial start of the race. The leader must maintain pacing speed until the flagger waves the green flag, and the flagger will do that at any time the leader is in the start zone. If you fail to maintain pace speed, after that the pace car pulled off the lane, which in this case obviously at the entry to turn 3 there at Martinsville, means that up until the flag is waved to get the race underway, that will result in a black flag. So there you go, ta-da. Robert Northway, it was close. It was close, but just, I think, a fraction too soon, jumping on the power there for the initial race restart.
Well, lesson learned in the commentary box for us, and lesson learned the hard way for Robert Northway, who remains 2 laps down thanks to that penalty. I wanted to just highlight, I have gone back to see the incident between Jonathan Bain and Stuart Elder, and I can confirm, yes, it was on the formation lap. The field was slowing coming into one of the turns, and Stuart Elder just came steaming in and rear-ended Jonathan Bain. So both of those cars carrying damage to start with. We're right on board with Shane Bowen, meanwhile, who's trying to chase down Sam Harper for 4th place here. And it looks like the leaders are already starting to come up on a bit of lap traffic just up ahead. So things are going to start getting complicated here. Daniel Stevens and Dwayne Burns are almost coming up to the back of Craig Hawkins, who we ride on board with.
Yeah, Hawkins, unfortunately, well, pace at the moment looks okay, but, well, it's about 0.6 of a second down on your race leaders currently, and, well, every couple of tenths will count here, of course, with such a short course to negotiate. So we'll see here how the leaders go with their first bit of lapped traffic. Well, excluding Northway, but Northway, of course, is trying to cut his way through the field and doing somewhat admirably and still lapping on pace with your race leaders. That's a bit deep for Robertson.
Oh!
Around he goes, and caution number 2 is going to fly as a result.
Oh dear. Well, Robertson has had a very rough race so far, hasn't he? And it looks like that was... actually, he started that all by himself. There was contact. It was between himself and Dave Trevethan. But as you'll see here on the VRS replay, Robertson was trying to move up the inside. He was already trying it here. They were actually bumping panels here. But then they come up to the entry for the next corner. Robertson gets on the brakes, and the rear end just goes on him.
Yeah, has been working that car very hard, has Robertson, in this race so far, and just a little bit too much for the rears to be able to manage themselves, unfortunately. On board here with one of the Connect Avatar cars is potentially Dean Mole. Yes, it is indeed, and yep, just breaks away from the rear, and Mole just able to sneak
good avoidance
out from behind that one there to avoid damage, as we do have several drivers down onto the pit lane. Dwayne Burns, Thomas Hins, Sam Harper, apologies, Shane Bowen, Josh Thomas, and Phil Otto, Chalker, Trevethan, Bean, Stuart Elder, all going to come into the pits here under the first caution, along with Craig Hawkins as well. Unfortunately for Robert Northwaite, just a handful of drivers stay out, though. No, pardon me. He's been given the lucky dog.
He has.
And around he goes. So he gets one back here on the leaders. So he'll be in line to potentially get one back later on as well. Actually, correction. No, Josh Robertson is currently stuck in the train. So Northway's going to have to find and overtake Josh Robertson to put himself in position to get another lucky dog and back into this race. But, well, first one's come here at 37 laps into it. That's not doing yourself too bad, but he will dive straight to the pit lane. This could be interesting because the leader's coming into turn 1 already, and the pace car speed slightly higher than the pit lane speed limit. So Northway's going to have to be careful not to push things too hard here, as we've got several drivers coming off the pits racing the leaders, basically, and it's going to be Stuart Elder, the last car, who gets out in front of the lead group, although he goes straight back towards pit. No, he has not made it out, pardon me. Or is he? Oh, he's floating around in front of the safety guy here, which is confusing my mind just a little bit here. The intricacies of full course caution, pit procedure, and no, Elder did not make it out in front of the pace car, and it's going to drop him towards the back of the queue, I would presume, based on what he's now doing.
Yeah, I can see. For anyone who's curious, Josh Robertson was ineligible for the lucky dog because he was involved in bringing out the caution. So that's something to note for the future. If a driver's involved with bringing out a caution, they cannot use their lucky dog. We've also received news that Sam Harper has received a black flag, potentially for speeding in the pit lane. Of course, this being oval racing, there's no electronic pit speed limiter on these cars. You have to control the pace all by yourself, and if you go a little bit too fast, then you will get pinged. It looks like that's what's happened to Sam.
Yeah, I'm just having a quick look to see when it might have happened here. And yeah, there's a small period. He's at 58 kilometers an hour, which is barely 2 kph. Well, it is 2 kph above the pit speed limit here at Martinsville.
That's a shame for Harper. Potentially, he could have gotten it for exiting a closed pit, because I think, you know, exceeding it a little bit for a small amount of time isn't
can
going
get
to
away
get
with
you
that, yeah.
pinged. You can get away with it, yes. The reason we saw Jonathan Bean slow just a little earlier at the exits was because the pits were closed as the field were making their way by. Maybe that's what happened to Harper. Either way, we're going to have to forget that for now, because we're back to green flag racing, and Dan Stevens, who stayed out of the pits along with the rest of our top 5, is go. And we begin the 41st lap of this race. We are now 1/5 of the way through of this race, and a side-by-side here with the number 19, Dwayne Burns, trying to find his way past Julian Mookie, succeeds, and then Mookie goes low on the exit, has to force Thomas more towards the inside, but Josh goes up the inside there into turns 3 and 4. Nice tight line as it's very wide for the number 9 of Simon Francis. Goodness me, this is looking a bit chaotic here as Thomas Hinz dives up the inside of Phil Otto in the 013. Hinsey gets himself back up into 7th. Now, these drivers would have given themselves a set of 2 tyres, I believe, for the most part. I think Thomas Hinz is one of the drivers who definitely took 4 tyres on that stop, because his pit stop was about 21 seconds long.
Yeah, that would add up. And just listening to some of the in-game chatter at the moment, because Sam Harper a little confused as to why on earth he's picked up a penalty, because his speed looked okay in pit lane. It was a green light at pit exit for him under that caution, so shouldn't have been been pinged for exiting the pits that were closed. But here it's heard some words about cutting the course. Now, Harper's entry to the pit lane was certainly a bit dicey in terms of the way he came down very late. Actually, almost ran into the back of Thomas Hinz and grabbed the curb. Has got one of the middle finger cars of, I think it's Jonathan Bean. Yes, the 019 is onto the lane as well. And unfortunately for Jonathan, he's now several laps down the leaders already and has potentially got a penalty to serve. He does. The 019 will be in the pits for a bit. We've got Josh Robertson as well in the pits with a very lengthy penalty as well. Sees him now a long way off the lead as he's also taking hefty repairs, it would seem. Not opting to use the fast repair at this stage. But it is certainly on here. Look at this. We've got a little bit of almost too wide. As into turn 1 we go there. It's Josh Thomas and James Catchpole fighting over P4 on the road with Thomas Hinz. We jump on board 53 right in behind them here.
This is the drivers who pitted under caution versus the drivers who didn't pit under caution. Burns, Thomas, Hinz and Bowen, the guys in this group that came into the lane, so they have some fresh rubber on their cars. Oh, there we go, almost a little bit of a smack there between Shane Bowen and James Catchpole. Bowen's going to have to try and find his way past here, and the superior grip is out as there is the caution. There is another problem.
He's just been going too slow there, Reese.
Oh no, Robertson coming out of the pits after serving his black flag. Yeah, he pulled over to let everybody go, and because of that, iRacing detected a car going too slow and brought the caution out.
Oh dear, we had this happen at Weed Sport in the Modified Mayhem. You see here, look at this pack as they come on by. And yet, slows down, slows down, slows down, slows down. That's a little slow. You're still on the racetrack and basically stopped. There we go. You see it in the background there. The lights switched from open entry to closed entry there for the number 11. And oops-a-daisies there from Robertson. We'll see it here from the wide-angle shot. Watch there for the lights there at pit entry. The commitment line as he backs off and bang.
There we go. Yeah.
Actually, all the lights flashing up there on the infield with the medical and retrieval trucks as well for good measure.
Indeed. Well then, that's a little embarrassing there. Either way, that could potentially work out to be a free pit stop for some drivers, but doesn't look like anyone's deciding to take it for the time being. I think we might still have to wait for pit lane to open, but crucially, this is working out in Robert Northway's favour. He's going to get the lucky dog again, and will be able to go around the field and get back onto the lead lap. So that initial start penalty for the number 46, our pole sitter, is ultimately not going to matter now.
All cleared up there indeed. I'm just wondering, maybe we had some drivers jump into the pits too soon when the pit lane was closed potentially on that first yellow. But actually, no, that doesn't make sense because there were plenty of other drivers who came in with Sam Harper. So something else that Harper's... Is it maybe a commit? Because there's a commitment line down the bottom here before turn 3. Did Harper miss the commitment line potentially? Is that a thing here at Martinsville potentially that we're not familiar with?
You know what I'm going to do, Dan? I am going to look at Sam Harper's pit entry there, and we'll see what on earth happened.
Yeah, having seen it personally, it's a very late commitment to the lane and almost runs into the outside cone, denoting where the pit speed limit begins. But yeah, well, unfortunately, the quirks of Martinsville. I've done one race here in C fixed. I opted not to take tyres. I got obliterated as a result on the final restart in a green-white checker situation because this numpty didn't really realise how important having fresh tyres was going to be right at the end of a race. Thought he could hang on at the front of the field, and no, got dumpster-fired off the exit of turn 2 in the process.
Yeah, indeed. Well, I'm still trying to see what the entry was like for Mr. Harper. It does seem here that... come on, where is it? Where is the lap that he pitted on?
38?
Lap 30... Lap 37, you said?
Potentially. The yellow came out at 35, if I'm not mistaken, for Robertson.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Here we go. I am going to check it now, and we'll just see if we can try and confirm something about Harper's pit stop. Oh, yeah. It was a very late pit entry, and he actually brushed up against the entry cone there, so I get the feeling that he missed the commitment line.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that later because it's going to be middle finger on the front row for the restart. Dan Stevens on the inside there puts the foot down nicely in the number 3 machine, and he's going to absolutely jump away. Gavin Barber is all kinds of out of shape there on the run. Both Dwayne Burns and Thomas Hinz get the inside line and take places off him here. It's almost 3 wide between Kinetic Avatar cars of Thomas, Bowen, and Otto. Oh, that was a bit hot in from one of the cars further on back there in the Kinetic colours. Looks like, thankfully, we avoid another wreck there. It was, I think, possibly in and around Jake Fox, as there's a bit of hip and checking through 1 and 2. Once again, these guys really not afraid to get the elbows out in the mid-pack as it's on for P2. Hinz up the inside of Burns is going to take that place away from the number 19.
And with a staunch exit, the car squats and the number 53 goes out onto the front straight at Martinsville in hot pursuit of Daniel Stevens, who is still on the same tyres he started on. And it's super close racing all the way back from there. Oh dear, that is a coming together on the back straight. Dean Moll and Julian Mookie, the cars involved in that. And it looks like it was a case of Moll trying to come up on the straight, and Mookie was there. I mean, Mookie could have probably afforded to go a little bit further to the right, but at the same time, I think Moll should have been aware that Mookie was on his outside there.
Kicks up a couple other cars in the process as well. As we check out another angle of it here, you can see Mookie up against the wall, but Mookie just comes down off the wall there.
Yeah, he is. At the same time as Moll was moving up, yeah.
You can see that, unfortunately, that's the 521 Dave Trevethan piling into the rear of Sam Harper. And so, hefty damage for the pair of them, but Moll going to be the one who comes out worst of it all, getting damage to the front and rear. So you see it comes up towards the middle, gives space, I think, to Mookie to stay near the wall, as Mookie then comes down simultaneously. So unfortunately, World of Woe there, Trevethan at full speed. You then got one of the middle finger cars, which might have been, who could that have been? Unfortunately, I can't quite tell, but definitely Robert Northway diving to the inside to avoid it. Simon Francis, first one who takes to the bottom to play dodge. And then unfortunately, it collects, I think a total of 4 or 5 cars picking up damage from that one there. Jake Fox and D Mole going to be 2 of your drivers who go down into the lane here to fix things up under yellow.
I'll reconsider what I said to start off that incident. I don't think I could assign much, if any, blame to Dean Moll there. I think it's just a case of, you come out of the corner and you don't know what the driver on your outside is doing because they're in the blind spot. Yeah,
it is a fair way to put it there. And there's only so much you can do in terms of presuming that they'll stick to a fairly straight exit, as long as you give a car's width and then some to account for potential netcode and dramas there. That's all you can really do, and unfortunately it hasn't been enough in this case. As Stuart Elder has just gone around with the lucky dog this time by. That will bring the 115 machine back onto the lead lap of the race and up into P15 currently, but he'll get some more spots here, I think. Yes, he will. Dean Mole and Dave Trevethan both on the lead lap head down to the lane to fix up their machines here as they come into the pits. A nice floating wheel there for the 31. Unfortunately, not quite up-to-date interior rendering there for these cars, it would seem. I guess it's sort of an interesting pick, this car, because we do have the super late model on the iRacing service, and that sees use, I believe, over in the States. But we also got the Snowball Derby special event that involves that car over at, I believe it's, what's the Snowball Derby hosted at? No, actually, never mind. We're going to forget that. I've completely...
Take your time. It's all good.
I've drawn a massive blank on where the Snowball Derby is hosted. Sorry to everyone who knows a bit more about short track racing, and I'm pulling random facts out of my head and just going...
Five Flag Speedway.
There we go. There's the answer. Why do they have that track on the tip of my tongue and wasn't confident enough to say it?
Oh, well, sometimes that's just what happens when you're in the comms box. Either way, it looks like we are about to get going for the restart here. And once again, it's going to be Dan Stevens who leads them away, but crucially, he is on old tyres. The green flag flies and he is away, and that was a very slow start from Thomas Hinz. He is going to fall down to fourth potentially, and oh my goodness, the caution is immediately back out. That is a mammoth pile-up. Two cars stopped. Gavin Barber and Julian Mookie again.
And unfortunately for Mookie, this time he's the one who gets turned.
Yeah,
and
that's a shame.
Jump on the replay to show a breakdown. So it was with Shane Bowen in the number 7. Thomas Hinz, super slow round turn 4. And as a result, he's alongside the driver in 3rd place when this gets restarted. Almost back to 5th place there on the run. And then you can see here, a bit of coming together, and then a secondary contact with Simon Francis, I think that was, and that unfortunately was enough to blow the motor on the 39. So, yeah, a rough patch goes quite bad there. So jump on board with Francis here, indeed, the number 9, and bang.
Yeah, big bang.
Smash, and actually takes a tap into the back of Gavin Barber for his troubles too there. Yeah, the car spun around in that caution period. So unfortunately, already up to caution number 5 here on lap 64. We got 30 laps without a caution, but now they're coming thick and fast, Reese.
They are indeed, and I think that incident was mainly caused by Shane Bowen trying to fly his way down to the inside for the turn 1 and 2 complex, and unfortunately Mookie was there on the inside and they made bumper-to-bumper contact. So that is a mechanical black flag for Julian Mookie. He has had to tow back to the pits, I believe, so
he did.
Yeah, but fortunately, it looks to me like he is not on the list of drivers who have used their spare cars so far. So he'll be able to get out there pretty quickly once the towing period is over. But we see activity on the pit lane. Robert Northway, Simon Francis, and Dean Mole are in. And Northway coming to the end of the pit lane to get a little bit more service done.
He is indeed having that number 1 pit box all the way around near the exit of turn 2. Here at Martinsville, they've crammed a lot of pit boxes into this pit lane to make things work here. And, well, yeah, unfortunately for Julian Mookie, he's still waiting for the tow time to complete. So we'll jump on the fast repair, we believe. Although I did see the list that we've now got from our producer, Jay Kennedy, update. I'm going to presume that means that's a preemptive update there from... The preemptive update is confirmed. So, yeah, we, of course, to get that car back out on the track, Mookie will need to use the fast repair here, because that car's going nowhere anytime fast if he dares to take, or opts to try and take standard repairs here. I believe we're at 2 to green currently, because there's still single file for the most part here, Reese. And so, yeah, 5 cars, 5 fast repairs used, 5 spares taken, 15 remaining. And also notice it was Dave Trevethan on this caution period that got the lucky dog. So he was sent around as one of the middle finger cars is released from behind the pace car there. That looks to be Gavin Barber. That's just been given the wave around. So, restart, Mr. Kimura. And I believe I just heard, indeed, single file restart for this one here after the fact it's in immediate succession to a previous one. So, this will hopefully eliminate the chaos that we're sort of starting to see with lining up the grid formation. So in the hands of Dan Stevens once more. He is still yet to pit in this one, and he might just be looking to try and make this work here with as few stops as possible. Into the restart zone he comes. He puts the foot down in response to the green flag call. We're back underway here at Martinsville.
And have a look at that racing further on back. Thomas Hinz immediately to the inside to protect from the kinetic avatar pair of Shane Bowen and Josh Thomas. As round the inside goes Josh Thomas to try and get the move done on the number 7 of Shane Bowen. Just behind them, they've got Matt Chalker. It is a proper kinetic avatar train here. Look at them, 5 of them in the same frame. Shows really tells you something about how much effort Kinetic Avatar put in to have so many cars turn up here, as that's very wide there for Bowen, and he's going to have to deal with Matt Chalker on his inside now as well. The top 3, well actually second to 4th, are very close together. Daniel Stevens getting a great getaway there from the front of the field. Currently Dwayne Burns is in 2nd, but Thomas Hinz is going for it on James Catchpole and takes 3rd place there.
Was given a bit of a helping hand there, I would add, but Catchpole is leading the Sportsman division, and the nearest driver to him is Matt Chalker in the 76 machine. So no pressure for Catchpole to race with these Pro Class drivers immediately in his vicinity. So he's keeping his head on a smart pair of shoulders. And also to note that Catchpole, along with Dan Stevens and Gavin Barber, the only 3 drivers in this field yet to come to the pits in any shape or form. So starting to probably feel the wear here, as we've got purple sectors from Robert Northway on that previous lap, apparently, if I'm looking at this right, down in the 20.44 range, and he's setting more purples currently here as he whips around. You can see actually a 20.3
fastest lap of the race.
Northway. Fastest lap of the race indeed, Reese.
Excellent stuff there from Northway. Back up into the top 10 now after getting the lucky dog twice in a row. And we'll take a look at his strategy here on board. Look at how smooth he is on the throttle and the focus on his features here. Just towards the outside, dips it more towards the inside as you get to the second turn, and up the inside now at the 08 of Jake Fox he will go, and up into 9th.
Textbook set up there in terms of making sure he gets a good run exiting turns 2 and 4, prioritizing those at the exits rather than the entries here. Covers off the entry though this time into 1, just to make sure there's no attempt from Fox to send a cheeky one back down. Next target for the 46 is Phil Otto there in the 013 directly ahead. And
have a look at the mid-corner speed superiority of Northway's car. You can tell why this guy started on pole. He's really got a good setup on that number 46, and he's going to have to work to try and find a way past, though, because as we've seen, passing is quite difficult here at Martinsville. He's going to show the nose on the way into turn 3, but nothing doing for the time being. He's just going to try to unsettle Phil Otto here. Don't forget that Otto has been on those tyres now for going on 40 laps. Robert Northway, of course, coming in for some service under the last caution. So there's a little bit fresher rubber on that car, I would gather. That explains a little bit the pace difference in the mid-corner. Fastest car on track that time around was Dwayne Burns for the time being. There's a pass for 4th meanwhile. Bowen getting past Catchpole. James falling back into 5th spot now. And remember, he's 2nd of the cars that haven't pitted yet, and he is wide again. Might have gotten a bit of a helping hand there from Josh Thomas, a little bit of a bump and run. Robert Northway, meanwhile, gets through on Phil Otto and moves himself up into 8th. Matt Chalker then getting past James Catchpole into 6th spot. So Catchpole is dropping like a stone right now.
Yeah, a little bit there, a little bit of a kiss to the bumper of Chalker as they exited turn 2, and yeah, just sort of telling here, I think Catchpole really starting to feel the burn in this mid-pack where they're coming at him pretty thick and fast. Still trying to hang on to his tyres here, which makes sense. We're going to have we're still not even halfway into this one. You've only got 2 sets to play with in this race. You need to make sure you're looking after your tyres as much as you can. He's going to get the call to Northway to head on up the inside here at turn 1, and he's willing to let that one slide nice and easy. So Northway back to P7, pardon me, already. Eyes on the top 6 and the driver as well. Make it top 5 and then some up the road. As indeed, we'll check in with your battle for 2nd and 3rd here. Thomas Hinz continuing to apply pressure to Dwayne Burns. Last lap around, half a tenth faster than your race leader, but Stevens out to a 1.1 second lead as of current, so all eyes here on this 2-way fight for the time being.
Indeed, I'm amazed that Dan Stevens is continuing to put down the times he is on those very worn tyres. He's still running times in the 20.6s, and of course these guys, Burns and Hinz, they're running times in the mid 20.5 second bracket. So they are a little bit faster than Stevens at the moment, but not by much, as Robert Northway gets up into 6th place. There is the pass done on Matt Chalker, and now there's a little bit of clear air here for Robert Northway to make up even more time. His next targets will be the battling pair of Bowen and Thomas at Kinetic Avatar.
Yep, and he's got a little bit of track to work his way into for good measure. And given the way we've seen Josh Thomas in particular seems to be incredibly racy so far today, he's just a little bit off the back of his teammate Bowen, so a bit of space to work into there as we check out second and third. Getting by some more laps traffic here. Dave Trevethan in the 5:21 goes a lap down on your podium now. For him, unfortunately, bit of car looking a bit roughed up there, and looks to have picked up some damage since previously. Actually, no, pardon me, he's come to the pits a couple of times, but has not yet taken fast repair on the 5:21. So looks like he's nursing a bit of damage, which is slowing him down in this race for the next little period. He does have another lap car directly behind him. So a little bit of time before the lead lap cars catch him once more as side by side, or the split screen I should say, view here on board with Thomas Hinz in the above frame, looking at the back of Dwayne Burns, but also got the webcam feed, and it is certainly a face full of concentration for Hinz, and in fact a face full of concentration with a little bit of a nudge there through the middle of turns 3 and 4 for good measure.
Hinz carrying quite a bit of speed through the mid-corner, it seems, and tagged Dwayne Burns just a little bit, and you could see the reaction there from Hinz. I don't think he was expecting that, but either way, he's going to give him a little bit more space there, as there is the Forge NRG car behind Gavin Barber now. That's Stuart Elder, who's just been passed there, I believe, for 12th. Barber up there, and now these drivers making their way past Trevethan. Thomas, Northway, Bowen up ahead. It looks like Trevethan is giving them plenty of room there.
Yeah, good awareness there from Dave in the 5:21 machine. Steps aside nice and early. Allows these guys up the inside without any hesitation and problems there. And we keep on going here at Martinsville. So you can see now, should close on in, gains another 10th on these two ahead of him here. Does Robert Northway. But fastest driver in the top 6 was your race leader, Dan Stevens, last time by. Only 400ths in it, but hello. Thomas
easy.
Starting to burn the rears a little bit there off of turn 4. That'll make him vulnerable if he does that again. That'll certainly make the rear end of that car a little bit more lively than it needs to be. And Northway is, I think, given... No, he's going to show to the inside here through turns 3 and 4, but not quite given the option to finish the job. But Thomas is looking very squirrely, and another little small slide gives Northway the inside here, racing to 1 and 2. This should be a pretty done deal. Indeed, Thomas not going to fight that one. You actually give him a little nudge, try and get underneath him. Pardon me, crisscross. It's on between these two.
It is indeed, but will Northway go deeper? Thomas goes up the inside. Northway on the fresher rubber around the outside should have a slightly better exit, but no, this is not good for Robert Northway. He unfortunately allowed Thomas to get up the inside, and then that's position lost again. So Northway is going to have to try again at some point. We're hearing some news, meanwhile, that our race leader, Dan Stevens in the number 3, is starting to struggle on these worn tyres. Let's take a look at his wheel work here on the exit, see how those rears are treating him. He's keeping it nice and smooth for the time being, but we're hearing that the wheel work is starting to get a little messy. That car has been on that rubber now since the start of the race for 93 laps running as he crosses the line. So we'll see what Stevens can do here as he once again is the fastest car on track that time by. It's amazing that he's able to hold on to this pace.
So it's a bit of a handful, but it's still a manageable handful, it would seem, for the man in the number 3 machine who come around final corners once again here to cross off that 94th lap of the race. It's a 20.8 that time around. He does lose 1/10 to Burns and Hinz behind, but having made up gains in previous laps, it's up from 1.1 seconds to 1.3. Since we last checked the timing tower in focus, as we go back to look at Josh Thomas and Robert Northway once more. Scrapping is costing them, lapping almost a 10th off the pace of your race leaders, and this time again The inside of turn 1 will look Northway, but the door's going to be shut basically by Thomas there. Trying to run it in deep there, and he does indeed, but that is the kind of thing that's very much a risky gambit from the leading driver of the pair. Open the door on entry and then shut it off when you're well inside the corner there. It's an open invitation to put one up the inside if Northway's got the confidence under brakes. And very fortunate that it did not work. He goes high through turn 1, does Northway, to try and straighten up on Thomas. He's looking close here into 3 and 4 this time by once again. But no, not quite there, Reese. He's going to have to try and set it up even more.
Yeah, he's going to have to rely on one heck of an exit from one of these corners if he wants to try and get by Josh. You can see already the Kinetic Avatar driver is going to the inside quite early. Robert Northway running a little bit higher to try and get a better exit. He looks to the inside again, just showing the nose a little, but again you see that Josh Thomas is going straight to the inside to try and keep Robert Northway behind. We had a look at this pack here a little earlier, and we go back to them. The battle for 7th. This is all sportsman drivers. Chalker, Catchpole, Otto, and Fox, all here in a line. And Matt Chalker, James Catchpole is, again, the car of those guys that is not pitted yet is Robert Northway, finally getting up the inside of Josh Thomas again. Will he be able to secure a position in the top 5 from this?
Certainly Blake's going to try for the crisscross, I reckon, again here on the exit of
turn 2. Northway covers it.
He's
well
certainly,
done.
Yeah, no surprises there. Northway going to be pretty aware. I think he would have noticed that Thomas rolled out early into turn 1 there, and, well, having seen it once, he doesn't need to be told again what the possibility of the crisscross was. So, indeed, gets it in nicely, able to pull it up, though, and not drive it in too deep on the exit to cover off the inside line. So, gets that place, but he now has 2.75 seconds of road to work into here if he wants to get another place. We've got a car down low, slow. Julian Mookie in turn 1, but we stay green here, thankfully. Mookie able to get it, I think, down on the grass enough or something to avoid triggering yellow. That's Hins. Almost sent up around. Oh, it's sent Hins very wide. It's getting quite messy on track here. Lead lap cars, lap traffic cars. In fact, look at that there. Over a second now between your second and third place cars here, when previously they were nose to tail, Reese.
Yeah, this is getting a little messy now as Hinsey just grazes the wall in the background there. Burns in second. It doesn't seem like he has too much pressure from behind now, but the battle continues here between Chalker, Catchpole, Otto, and Fox, and this is for the sportsman lead. So Catchpole still running in second in sportsman right now, but could be the lead here as he tries to look to the inside of Matt Chalker on the way into turn 1. Chalker going deep, trying his best to keep up some mid-corner speed, but Catchpole is through.
Well done there to Catchpole. Remember, he's the one of 3 drivers yet to pit in this one still, so he's somehow still got something underneath him here in this Real Bad Racing 021 machine here, as it's now between Otto and Chalker into turn 1. Otto on the inside will take that pretty handily, and Jake Fox wants in too in the 08 machine here as they come around the turn. And watch out, Sam Harper's trying to get back into this situation here. He's looking to try and get himself back towards the lead lap of this race. He's the driver in line for the lucky dog. If, no, pardon me, he's not, apologies. Dean Mole is the first car a lap down. And then Stuart Elder and Sam Harper. My timing lets me down because it's looking focused on Phil Otto just up ahead. And therefore, that's what the blue and red was there for. But anyways, we watch here further on up towards the front. This is Dan Stevens. Now has one of his teammates, I believe that's Gavin Barber. Yes, 25 machine of Barber, able to just put himself in between the leader and Dwayne Burns for a second here, because with all this lap traffic, it's brought the gap down from a comfortable 1.3 seconds to inside 0.8 there for a moment on the entry to turn 1.
And the issue here for Burns is now he's got to try and find his way past Barber if he wants to try and catch up to Stevens. But of course, MFR will try and play the team game here, and Barber now assumes the role of rear gunner for Daniel Stevens in the lead. And you can see he's doing a very good job of keeping Dwayne Burns behind him. The gap for the lead is ballooned back out to over a second, but it's not going to matter because the caution is back out. And it looks to me like, who was that?
Julian Mookie and I think Shane Bowen as well getting entangled with each other on the exit between turns 1 and turn 2. We'll go to the Virtual Racing School replay and check out what's happened here. We did get ourselves to lap 109 on board with Mookie here into turns. It's going to be Bowen to the inside. late lunge and, yep, just gets the left rear of Mookie and puts both
Bit
cars
more.
in the outside fence.
Yeah, a bit more to that, I think, because I was looking at Mookie's car, and it actually looks like he got a bit of a slide on into the corner just before Burns came in. So this is a case of two cars coming together. Mookie would have maintained a middle-of-the-road line, but just got a bit of oversteer on at exactly the wrong time, and that's what made him come down.
Right, well, yeah, we'll see it here on board with number 7 of Bowen.
You see a little hint of oversteer there from the 39.
I do indeed see that there. So unfortunate. Brings out the next caution, but what it does mean is Dean Mole is going to be the driver to get a lap back here in the 31 machines. John, we can just see the way the cars snap and wobble their way down into the corner. But, well, we're inside the second half of this race, and you'll see here, no taking to the pit lane for Daniel Stevens. Dean Mole's on the pit lane. Actually going to take service here. Now, I was under the impression that... Oh, actually, pardon me. It might be James Catchpole who gets the lucky dog here.
Last time we saw, Dean Mole was the leader of the cars a lap down, but I don't know if he's going to get the lucky dog now.
Yeah, come into the pits. And Catchpole all of a sudden is out of position relative to the rest of the group and is now on the lead lap once again. So something seems to have happened to Catchpole, I think, towards the end of that green flag run. Black flag for James Catchpole that he has yet to serve. And he's been a naughty boy on pit exit, we're told, by producer Joe Kennedy. So came to the pits on 111 under the caution here. Took a fast repair, and then as he headed out from his pit box...
He got on the throttle just a little too early, it seems. He was maintaining 33 miles an hour, and then, accelerated just a bit too early.
Did indeed. That's an unfortunate error there for Catchpole. Apologies.
Yep.
We'll see the 021 after doing such a good job to stay in the fight for the sportsman lead on the tyres that he started this race on. He actually comes back to the pits for a second time here under yellow, so this is interesting to see what he's hoping to do here because, well, as a penalty, he can't serve until we go green. Been a while since we've had a restart, Reese, so we will get the double file restart as required by the rules here. So it will be Dan Stevens to once again lead us back to racing action. Dwayne Burns will be alongside him this time in the number 19 for Connect Avatar. Then it's Hins on the inside behind Stevens with Northway on the outside. Thomas and Otto, Fox and Chalker, Francis and Bowen, your top 10 here as we're back into the restart zone once more. Stevens away. The outside lane is slow once more, but Hins not able to capitalise on Burns. As it might be Northway who's going to try and run around the outside here to take a place, but no. Doesn't seem to have the grip on the outside just yet, but he does pinch Hins down. That might just be the spot. Nope, he's going to back out here and get to the inside. Actually shut off Thomas there, who went for the move, Reese. You just called that one there. Gets down low just in time to prevent that inside line being open for the taking.
And we check out Simon Francis up the inside of Matt Chalker here. These guys fighting over 8th place at the moment. And Chalker just ahead as they make their way into turns 3 and 4. But Francis is going to try and force him wide and get the exit. It's all about straight line exit here and traction at Martinsville. Got to have a pointy car as well as they just bump panels almost on the way into turns 1 and 2. And it looks like that's going to be position secured for Simon Francis out of that one. Chalker's going to have to be careful of the recovering Shane Bowen, who's back down to 10th. And Bowen goes up the inside, and there we go. Yep, trouble indeed. Just whacked the wall coming out of turn 4, and he's lost a couple more places as Dean Mole and Sam Harper have made their way past him. And it looks like Julian Mookie is going to try and join them as well. Mookie, of course, a lap down here.
Unfortunately for Mookie, he's actually 4 laps down at this stage of the race, and will be in desperate need of if he wants to get the wave around at this point. It's going to be some serious work. Sam Harper is now your first car off the lead lap in position number 11, so the 52 will be hoping for a wave around in due course to get himself back into the action here after his early penalty as well, with pit lane infringement of some variation, which we suspect is probably the entry there, but we can't say for certain, unfortunately. All right, back at the front of the field. It's on between Dwayne Burns and Thomas Hinz once again, inside 3/10. Albert Northway seems to have settled into a somewhat comfortable P4 for the time being, not looking to really close up all that much on your top three, who, look at that, they're covered by just 7/10 of a second as they come off turn 2.
Indeed they do. Well, let's see how they go then as we make our way onto the 121st lap of this race. Shane Bowen and Jake Fox just swapping positions there for 7th spot. And looks to me like Bowen is making short work of making his way up through the field, but we keep an eye on Thomas Hinz here as he chases down Dwayne Burns and Daniel Stevens. Now we will see if there is going to be any big moves here for those top 2 positions. We'll keep an eye out because on the way into turns 1 and 2, you've got to stick all the way to the inside, and there's plenty of rubber being laid down on the track, but as I mentioned, you can't run too wide, otherwise there is no grip there on the concrete. Northway, though, up into 4th place, and he's going to try and line something up on these guys if he can keep the pace up. Stevens, of course, still has yet to pit, and he's still running times that are pretty consistent with everyone else.
I mean, of course, right now they're really jammed up behind him here, so it's a bit hard to say if Dwayne Burns and Thomas Hinz in particular would seem to have a pace advantage, I would wager. But yeah, doing a really good job here to not come under immense pressure at this point, despite 125 laps on these tyres. We did, of course, had those caution periods to give the car a breather, but it really speaks to the endurance capacity and the way Stevens as a driver is looking after the tyres here, but also just the way the car's driving at this point in the race, and the fact that, well, yeah, you can see here, gap is still 7/10 between your top 3, but the gap opens up to nearly 4/10 of a second, almost half a second at one point there between Stevens and Dwayne Burns specifically.
Hinzy almost on the rear bumper of Dwayne Burns now, and there's plenty of cars out there with dings and bumps in their sheet metal. Now we will come around to enter the 128th lap of this race. This is an incredible fight. Further on back, meanwhile, Matt Chalker and Simon Francis, they're continuing to fight here. This time it's over 9th and 10th as Francis gets up the inside, and just enough room given by Matt Chalker on the outside. They will be side by side on the way into turns 3 and 4, and it looks like Chalker will get the move done very nicely with a good run out of that corner.
Indeed, Francis a little loose on the previous lap into turns 1 and 2. That invited Chalker up to the party. Also gave Julian Mookie a chance to get by here and at least put himself with some clean air ahead. But looks like Chalker and Francis going to keep going at it for a moment there. No, Simon not able to get up alongside. This time in turns 3 and 4, he will have to set up another run here in a moment. But yeah, the number 9 machine looking competitive, wanting to push here. That's too deep from Chalker, I think. Yeah, that's up high off the preferred line, and as a result, Francis just gets that little bit closer, but not quite there to make a move just yet.
Yeah, not quite. Well, we'll see if Simon Francis can try and fight his way back forward now. We check up towards the top 3 battle, Dwayne Burns versus Thomas Hinz for second, with the number 3 of Daniel Stevens continuing to hold on to the lead, and it looks like Stevens was faster than Burns and Hinz on that previous lap. Fresh tyres, not always the best way to go, well, we have seen that Burns and Hinz have stayed out ever since they first took that set of tyres all the way back on about lap 37-ish, so it seems that they've cottoned on, and they are going to continue to save time and stay with track position under caution to try and pressure Daniel Stevens to the line. But I'll tell you what, in the next 20 laps or so, those tyres will really start going off for Stevens, I'm sure.
Well, that's the thing. You'd think they'd have gone off. Well, honestly, I think I'd have thought they'd have gone off by now if we were really going to see a cliff moment. Only another 0.5 lost on that lap to 1/10 of a second. in particular. We are noticing here, turn 4 in particular looking a little bit rough. You can see he's up high through 3 and 4 in the middle part of the turn. On that particular run, as we watch the Zoom feed we've got provided, thanks to Dan, he looks like he's hanging on nicely. You can see now starting to run a bit of a higher line through the corner. Now I think he is struggling to be able to get it down to the apron. And, well, it's actually an apex curb here at Martinsville. The way he'd like, I presume, because it just looks like it's a little vulnerable through the mid-corner in compared to Burns and Hinz. So I think finally, after 135 laps, we might just be seeing some meaningful pace difference. The only problem is that Ryan Burns is already right up his bumper and can't really set a run up. He's going to have to just hope that the wobble comes late enough on corner exit for Stevens, that is, that he'll be able to power on by and close and get past in time without running into the back bumper of that number 3 machine.
Yeah, indeed. Well then, we see Daniel Stevens having a wiggle at the wheel a little bit there on the exit of turn 4. Those rears are not playing nice with him right now, and you can see that he's straightening the run into these corners just to try and avoid putting too much force through those tyres. Bowen, meanwhile, now up into 5th, having just passed Josh Thomas some time ago. And we'll see what Bowen can do there on those much fresher tyres, try and work his way through potentially to the top 3 who are on screen now, coming around to begin lap 140 once they make their way through turns 3 and 4. Again, you see the line difference there. Stevens to the inside much earlier. He's making that V shape out of these corners. Burns, meanwhile, is taking a bit of a wider arc on the way in, though. Having said that, coming into turns 1 and 2, Burns trying what Stevens did, and that, unfortunately, has caused a little bit of pace difference between he and Thomas Hinz at the mid-corner, and Hinzy is right on him.
They're getting into the bumper of Burns as Thomas Hinz on the entry, but the exit looks to be in favour of the 19. Obviously a bit of an accordion effect, of course, will happen here with compress on entry and expand on exit, but it does seem to be that Burns' car has got enough on the exit phase, and also Dwayne driving it a little bit better, perhaps a little better on the exit, to protect his position and continue to keep his eyes forward on Stevens here for the race lead. Isn't there also a curious question? You're this far into the race. If a caution was to come out in, say, the next 10 to 20 laps, if you're Dan Stevens, do you come to the pits and put a set of 4 tyres on, or do you just commit to holding the lead of this race? And if you then get a green-white checker or a late caution before this one wraps up here, do you then only take 2 tyres? He's in the fence on the exit of 2.
Looks like it's not going to matter because Dwayne Burns is now up the inside of Daniel Stevens, and the lead will change. Burns with a slightly better exit. Stevens is still halfway alongside as they make their way into turns 1 and 2, but Stevens now on the high line. He is going to have to make way for Thomas Hinz and will fall from the lead to 3rd place potentially. We'll see though if he can stick with it here, but Hinzy dives up the inside. Enough room is given by Stevens, and that should be move complete there. That little wall tap just cost Stevens almost everything.
Boy, just after so much consistent running, was not ready for Stevens to get up to the fence, and there it is again, trying to carry the corner exit speed with the power down. Right, well, that says it to me. Surely now Dan Stevens will bring that number 3 to the pits as soon as permitted by a caution. Put 4 tyres on the car, maybe give it a bit of a massage and try and buff out the panelling there on the left rear corner without using the fast repair, that is, and hope that with tyres at less than 50 laps old, he can really push back through the field in the final phase. Or alternatively, given that the last pit stops were on lap 115 for Josh Robertson, and for the lead lap cars 110 for Shane Bowen, you hope that the car, well, everyone's going to come to the pits, and therefore Dan Stevens is not not going to lose all that much. Your race leader gets by James Catchpole in the 021, who then goes up high through turns 1 and 2. Allows Thomas Hinz through without much of a drama there. Good awareness there from Catchpole. Unfortunately, though, back down in 15th place after running up inside the top 10 and leading your sportsman drivers for a phase of this race. He is now down a couple of laps there. 2 laps to be precise. And looking to hang on here as there's your sportsman class leader, Phil Otto. He too, one of the drivers who hasn't come to the pits since lap 36. A lot of these guys really trying to make these tyres work here for the long run.
Yeah, well, pulling over to the inside, another one of our middle finger competitors, Jonathan Bean, letting Robert Northway go as well. Northway still in 4th spot here and trying his best to work his way past James Catchpole, who is a lap down. Now that Stevens has fallen back to 3rd, he has dropped off the back of Dwayne Burns and Thomas Hinz, and those wall taps would not have done him any favours there. Northway continuing to make moves just behind. We see him just getting up the inside of Catchpole there. Catchpole in 15th spot at the moment. And 2 laps down as there's more oversteer for Stevens on the exit. He just avoided collecting the wall on the outside line. So now we move into the last quarter of this race. There are 49 laps to go here in the Virginia 300 in the international region of the Majors Series. And the battle for 8th overall is still on here between Jake Fox, Matt Chalker, and Simon Francis.
It is indeed. We haven't checked in with this major group for a while. So that looked like a little deep in from Chalker there to the entry of turns 3 and 4. Now, unfortunately for Julian Mookie in behind him, Mookie still down in 17th place and a long way off these guys on their lead laps. So he's not part of this fight in the sportsman group. And there's unfortunately just a moment there behind the trees. Get back out from behind them here. We'll see here that Chalker's mission to catch and hang on to the back of teammate Jake Fox, who's got about 4 seconds to find if they want to catch up to their teammate and sportsman class leader Phil Otto there. While Simon Francis in behind, looking to stick with this KAR trio, if we count Otto further on up the road. More traffic to navigate for your race leaders. Gap still inside 0.4 of a second here between Dwayne Burns and Thomas Hinz.
Yeah, still very close here.
Northway's coming for 3rd.
Oh, he is. He is really making up time now, isn't he? Fastest car on track that time by almost 0.2 quicker than Daniel Stevens. He's starting to line him up for a move. You can see the lead battle just up ahead. You can see them making their way past Dave Trevethan there. And Northway will be eyes forward on his way through. Can Northway come back from a start infringement penalty to come back to win? It's entirely possible.
Yeah, he's going to have his work cut out for him, it seems. Because, it's only a 1.8 second gap there to your race leaders, but that might feel like an eternity here in short course racing. Like, that's, again, nearly 10% of the track length right there in numerical form. And as you can see, Dave Trevethan's just stepped aside to allow these guys on through there as they work their way into turns 3 and 4 once more, where I was rapidly approaching 40 laps to go. And, well, we'll see here how long does it take Northway to get onto the bumper proper. He is about now, I'd say. How many more laps does it take to get past Stan Says? There's a tiny brush of the fence once more there for the number 3. Really starting to struggle with front end grip, it seems, as he can't get the car to get rotated enough on the corner exit without probably lining up the rears at this stage. And so it's just washing wide and finding the fence as a result.
Absolutely. Well, Northway moves closer and closer to Daniel Stevens, and again you see that very tight line towards the end of the corner for Northway to try and straighten up the exit as much as possible, and Stevens sticking all the way to the inside as well. The number 3 currently sits in position 3, but that might change very shortly here as Northway continues to try and round him up. Nearly gets into the back of him. There's going to be a tiny little bump there between Northway and Stevens, and Robert's going to have to back out of that for now and try and find another way past. As into the pits comes the number 9 of Simon Francis. There were 96 laps on that set of tyres, and it looks like he's decided to bring it in for some more service. Either way, we are going.
Only 9.6 seconds for Francis, but unfortunately that does put you down well, he was 1 lap down, or actually, no, he's just gone 2 full laps down as a result of opting to take that service there in the number 9 machine. He comes back out behind Dave Trevethan on the road physically, but has slotted him just ahead of Stuart Elder. So that's actually now a fight position there between Francis and Elder as they're heading into 1 and 2. But you can see now on for 1st and 2nd, on for 3rd and 4th. The gap is growing between Dan Stevens and those top 2. Robert Northway surely now looking at that delta margin and saying, I need on by now if I've got any chance of closing down the gap on pace.
Yeah, well, as we enter the final 36 laps, it is all on here for Robert Northway if he wants to try and finish on the podium again. Best he can hope for is another caution, and for Stevens to bite the bullet and get some fresh tyres for a late charge. We're also considering that potentially there's fuel to worry about as well. Simon Francis might have been pitting to just top up the tank as Northway has a big oversteer moment in the middle of the corner, and you can see he's already a little frustrated there thanks to that. Very well held, I have to say, but that has cost him valuable time.
Yeah, it's a good point, to be made about fuel, actually. We weren't really thinking about it because we're expecting 180 odd laps out of the tank. We're approaching lap 167. Pardon me, we actually are on lap 167 for your race leaders. The drivers behind are coming around to start lap 167 anyways. The point there being, we're probably about, according to our data, 15, 20 laps maybe away from the green flag tank range. So possibly Simon Francis has short-filled his car to start this one off, and was left with no choice but to come into the pits, despite the fact that coming down the lane for a green flag stop would have been pretty crazy here. The question is, for someone like Dan Stevens, has he been able to save enough fuel with all the cautions we've had so far in this race? I think 6 was the number I saw when we last went to the yellow. Let's look at this here between the two of them for 3rd. Nothing in it between Stevens and Northway, but Rob just not able to get close enough, drive off enough, but he's going to try and get down low enough to take the place away. Stevens, though, just puts himself a tiny bit off the wall, and he's going to not give us cars with into 1 and 2. Northway not able to force the issue just yet, but he's certainly making that number 3 car move around a bit and not be on the preferred line. He will bump him into 3 and 4, bump him twice, and he'll force the door open. Nice, the nice time, the respectful racing. Oh, that's going to be close.
No. Yeah, almost jinxed it there, Dan.
No more Mr. Nice Guy for Robert Northway. He's decided that it's time to, lend a hand, as it were, to Dan Stevens, and he will move the number 3 car out of the way there through turn 3 and 4 and take the place finally. But look at the gap now. It's gone up from 1.8 seconds to nearly 4 seconds. The process of being caught behind Dan Stevens here and then having to try and force his way by. It's brought Shane Bowen into a potential podium place fight if he's got speed to go with Northway. And think about this, Shane Bowen has about a 50 lap advantage on tyres over Robert Northway, let alone what's that going to be? The 100 and... about a 100 lap advantage? 130 lap
110 it looks like.
That was when he last came in, For some reason I can't do math advantage, but that makes sense. 110 lap advantage on tyres. Quite simply that.
Well, Stevens goes defensive and tries to force Bowen to go the long way around, but I think that, Bowen could have used that just then to take a late apex and try to dive up the inside at the next corner, but hasn't done it. Meanwhile, the gap for the lead still down around 0.3 of a second as Dwayne Burns continues to lead from Thomas Hins. We are almost coming in 25 laps to go, and look at that gaggle of lapped cars up ahead of our leaders. That is going to make things very complicated. Jonathan Bean and Julian Mookie fighting not quite for position. Ben is 7 laps down. Mookie is still 4 laps down, but we see that there's a good gaggle of cars there in front of our leaders that could make life very difficult for Dwayne Burns. Here's Jonathan Bean then. He runs wide to let our leaders go out onto the marbles. Hinsey gets pinched to the inside and loses a bit of time. The gap for the lead balloons out a little, but still remains at about 0.3 of a second. Now there's the trio of Mookie, Fox and Chalker. And it looks like Bub has decided to take a little break from the racing action.
He's been relieved of duty, I believe, for this one. So I think that, or finally, yeah, Jonathan's going to take care of that one there to the end. And, well, despite that momentary interruption to the fight for second, it seems that it's back on because, well, it's now your race leader, Dwayne Burns, who's got Julian Mookie, Jake Fox, and Matt Chalker all kind of racing each other at this point here. And not able to quite get through just yet on any of them. Mookie will move aside nice and early since he's well down here. But Fox and Chalker, they'd like to hang on to the lead lap if they can. And a little trouble there for Mookie. Yep, he's in the fence, and that's now, well, not too off pace, but definitely out of rhythm here as he comes off of turns 3 and 4. And look at this here. Dwayne Burns to the inside of Jake Fox. He will put him a lap down. And can Thomas Hinz follow suit? Fox tries to get down in behind Dwayne Burns. That's not going to work. He goes down a lap to both of your top 2 cars.
Yep, just not enough space between them there for Fox to slot in and play the team game. Hinze is harassing the back of Dwayne Burns right now. This is a pretty fantastic fight. It has been going on for pretty much the whole race. Burns and Hinz have been up in and around the top 5, top 3, all the way through, and now fighting for the win. Gap is 2.5 tenths of a second as they make their way through turns 3 and 4. And unfortunately, Burns had to back off a little bit there to find a way past Matt Chalker. He is going to be able to stay ahead, though, as Chalker runs wide to let them go. We are under 20 laps remaining.
It's been this nice, long green flag run. What do these two have left for us here? Because it's almost certainly coming down to the pair of them unless things change. Robert Northway still at the 4-second margin to these two up front, and he'll now be dealing with those lap cars. I've just seen these two have to negotiate over the past couple of laps. Thomas Hinz has been sitting on the bumper of Dwayne Burns for quite some time now. Has he got something he can work with? And it looks like this is going to be a good opportunity because they've got one car somewhat close up the road, Dean Mole, the next car to be lapped in the number 31 entry. But then from there on in, the next couple of cars are exiting turn 4 just now. And actually, it's, where is it? Number 7, that is Phil Otto. And then Sam Harper just in behind him as well. That's the traffic for your race leaders. So I reckon they're unlikely to run into traffic to the end of this one here. It's about a back. It's a straightaways away here at this point, there or thereabouts, as they come through 3 and 4 once more. You can see here, trying to get the line to maximize the exit speed for both cars and not hit the fence, though. That was a tiny graze for Hinz, if I'm not mistaken. Look at this here. Going to try and really V the corner, Reese, but yeah, that's not worked out at all.
No, it hasn't. He tried to line it up for the straight line exit, but it didn't work for him. He switches back to the inside for 3 and 4 to try and catch back up to Dwayne Burns. These guys are on tyres that are exactly the same age. 150 laps completed on this set. Stevens, meanwhile, still holding on to those tyres that he started the race on, but he's starting to come under some pressure now from Shane Bowen. Look at how far ahead Northway is. He has absolutely rocketed away. He's almost 2 seconds ahead of Stevens now.
Yeah, Stevens is really hanging on for a miracle here, it would seem. Yeah, he's holding on to this place ahead of a driver who last came to the pits on lap 110 and took at least 2 tyres on the outside for the number 7 machine. So that just says a lot about what Stevens has got. I mean, obviously, clearly under a lot of pressure to get that car pulled up, get that car to drive off the turn sufficiently here, but it's enough, just enough to hang on now as he's inside 12 to go, along with your leading drivers here. And look at this, Thomas Hinz out to half a second. He's going to have to find something really big here if he wants to pull this back in, because he's a fair ways off. That's well bigger than it's been in quite some time. One little mistake there, trying to maximize the exit and overdriving the entry, really costing him here and not making inroads as we approach 10 to go.
We're hearing from Jay Kennedy. Unfortunately, we missed it, but watching Hinze on Zoom, Jay spied that Thomas had a moment out of turn 2. So it doesn't seem like turn 2 is Hinze's strongest corner right now. Let's watch him here. running a little bit wide on the exit and nearly hitting the wall as well. That is some trouble there for the number 53 Jinx Shifters machine as they make their way past another lap car, Kinetic Avatar. Hinsley's been squeezed down low by Dean Mole, and Mole will lift out and let him go there promptly, but that has cost Thomas Hinz even more time to Dwayne Burns.
It's all adding up here. They should be clear of the traffic to the end as that next group of cars is heading down into turns 1 and 2. About half a straightaway ahead. Should be enough time to hang on, but indeed, look at this for P number 4. Dan Stevens really being hustled now, and you can see he's already about a quarter width off the wall here down the straightaways, trying to, I think, cover any space to the inside that Bowen could potentially use. You can see here, full width off the wall here into turns 3 and 4. He is now fully defensive, and Shane Bowen is going to have to start using the nose of his car to try and push Stevens up the road through the corners here. He's certainly going to have to think about it, but this is what it comes down to. Can Stevens hang on defensively? Can Bowen just force the issue enough to take the place away? He's on board with Bowen here into turns 3 and 4, and he's giving him the bump. There we go. Stevens is going to try and hang on, but up around the outside, that's what's going to be done. And Shane Bowen, a spot, but is it going to be a bit of a revenge bump? If he tried, it didn't quite work.
Yeah, either way, that is Stevens with a very valiant effort. Unfortunately now back into 5th. Doesn't look like he's going to come under much pressure from Josh Thomas in 6th because he's back about 5 seconds or so. So at least Stevens cannot drop any further from here as long as he keeps it going nice and straight. 5 laps to go, now coming on to 4 as Dwayne Burns leads by 0.7 of a second over Thomas Hinz. The last few laps here of the Virginia 300, and it looks like they've cleared all of the lap cars for now. It is a race to the finish between our top 2.
Yeah, that's what should be the case. Next car up the road is the 7th place driver, Phil Otto, but Otto's in the middle of turns 1 and 2 at the moment, just far enough ahead, yeah, that we're pretty certain we should be clear of traffic for your top 2 to wrap things up here. And well, we've got less than 2.5 laps to go now already for your top 2, so time's running out for something dramatic to cause us to go into overtime here at Martinsville for the Virginia 300. And, well, having looked after these tyres since pitting on lap 36, 91 lead laps to Dwayne Burns' name. At this rate, it's going to be 92 and then 93 when it all wraps up. Barney has the white flag in the air. We're staying green to the end of this one here, folks. Final lap of the Virginia 300 here underway. And, well, looks like Dwayne Burns has got not a whole lot of work to do. Dave Trevethan ahead. Here is traffic, but should be able to stay in behind through turns 3 and 4. And, well, show good pace in heat number 2. It was a bit scrappy with Thomas Hinz, but after following Dan Stevens through the mid-phase of the race, it will be Dwayne Burns who takes the win here in the Virginia 300 for the International Region of the Major Series. Thomas Hinz home across the line 2nd. Robert Northway brings it home in 3rd place. And it will be Shane Bowen in 4th. Dan Stevens to P5. But jump down to P7 real quick. Phil Otto to take the win in the sportsman category ahead of Matt Chalker and Jake Fox, your podium in that class today here, Reese.
Wow. Well, that was a pretty good race, I think, all things considered. I had fears that it would be a caution fest, but turns out we got 6 cautions over that 200 laps, and the last one was on lap 115. So really good job by the drivers to keep things clean there in the last half of the race. And we'll leave Dwayne Burns with a bit of space here to try his victory burnout. Looks like he's actually blown the engine with that wall contact. So no victory burnouts there for our race victor. That means that we can go through our official race results. Dwayne Burns by 0.7 of a second over Thomas Hinz. Robert Northway, well, he started on pole. Unfortunately, getting a start infringement penalty by accelerating too early off the race start. He would recover to finish 3rd. Brilliant job there. Bowen, pitting later than most others, managed to make those fresh tyres work. Daniel Stevens makes it to the end of the race on a single set of tyres, and a valiant effort to finish in P5 with Josh Thomas coming home in 6th. As you said, Phil Otto taking the sportsman victory ahead of Matt Chalker and Jake Fox. Sam Harper, meanwhile, rounding out the top 10, 1 lap down.
place tonight goes to Dean Mole, first of our drivers here, 2 laps down ahead of Gavin Barber in 12th place. Simon Francis, the next of our sportsman cars there in 13th, and that's going to be 4th outright, or 4th in class, sorry, for the number 9 machine today. Stuart Elder rounds out your top 5 in sportsman there with a 14th outright finish. James Catchwell, after being in such a competitive spot there, unfortunately comes unstuck with a penalty on the pit lane, ends up there 15th and 6th outright today in sportsmen. And then Dave Trevethan, early issues for him, sees him circulate around to 16th place, and our one driver 4 laps off the pace. And Julian Mookie, our 17th and final finisher today here, 5 laps short of your race leaders. Your 3 retirements, unfortunately, Jonathan Bean at 16 laps shy of the finish, brought the 019 in early there to, I think, get out of the way more than anything else. Reese, Josh Robertson, 11, on the number 11 machine, had good potential, but unfortunately, the sharp, extensive IT cars today have had a bit of a rough one. 86 laps short of the finish, did the number 11 retire, and Craig Hawkins quietly steps out 150 laps short of the finish there. So nice round 50 lap run for him. Unfortunately, a fair bit cut short from what everyone else was able to wrap things up there today.
Yes, indeed. And what we should highlight is we've just received some correspondence from Daniel Stevens. Of course, he stayed out for the entire race on one set of tyres. He showed us his tyre info after the race concluded. Get this, the right rear tyre had only 28% of the tread remaining. So, man, Stevens really pushed those tyres to the brink. We'll go to our driver interviews, though. First off, we're going to chat to our race winner, Dwayne Burns. Welcome, number 19, victory lane for you once again in the international region of the Majors Series. You definitely had to work for it, though. Hinsey was harassing you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Almost a bit unbelievable, really. I think that's my first outright win, so a bit speechless. Arms are kind of shaking, wheeling it for, I don't know how many laps we had there at the end, that green flag run. But Hinsey really made me work for it, so congrats to him and great racing to everyone tonight.
Yeah, it was definitely quite good in terms of racing. I was afraid that it would be a bit of a caution fest, but turned out the drivers gave each other a good amount of room, and we only had we had fewer cautions than I initially thought. How was that for you, though, trying to fight off Thomas Hinz there in those last 85 laps?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want the caution, so yeah, as the laps were counting down, I'm just praying, stay green, stay green. I felt like I had a little bit for him on the longer runs, but then it'd come to some traffic and he'd catch up again, and then he seemed to gain a little bit really late. So I was just trying to hold it all together.
Well, hold it together you did, and that victory will definitely bring you up a little bit in the standings. You were 7th coming into this round, with Gavin Barber finishing a little bit further down the field. Certainly, that's going to close things up between you and him.
Yeah, that'll help for sure. Unfortunately, I've missed a few rounds this year, so I've kind of had to write the championship off in a sense, but it'll be good to gain some positions and gain some good points for the team as well.
Indeed. Well, speaking of the team, we'll give you a moment, Dwayne, to have the floor and thank everyone who helped you get this victory today.
Yeah, big thanks to all the Kinetic Avatar Racing guys. It's always good racing with them and having some guys to bounce things off of. Thanks to Shane, my sort of perennial teammate, and of course all the Majors guys and SimSpeed for putting on the broadcasts.
Indeed. Well, we thank you very much for joining us, Dwayne. Now we'll step aside and let Dan Yeaman have a chat to our second place getter, Thomas Hinz.
Thank you there, Reese. Well, Hinsey had to work for, or certainly put a lot of work into it today here, both in that heat where you were right in behind Dwayne for those first 25 laps, and then all feature race long. It seems you guys really couldn't be separated by all that much there on track tonight.
Yeah, no, it was it was very good fun. I'm just glad I was in the fight at the front. I was a little bit apprehensive. I wasn't entirely sure where I'd be. I tend to do alright on ovals, given I don't really get to race them at all anymore these days. But yeah, I tend to do alright. But I was a bit apprehensive. I haven't really driven much late models at all either. So I was a bit sort of like I'm not sure where I'll be. So it was good to be up there and obviously, it was just sort of in the fight at the front. Pitted early there, just stick that splash of fuel and get the sort of tyres and ended up working out and obviously lobbed through a bit and then was settling behind Dwayne there. It was a good fight obviously with Dan as well at the end and he made that error and we're able to slip through and tried to push Dwayne, but obviously as we know with short track, especially Martinsville, it's very hard to pass without just sort of punting someone in the fence. So tried my best, but Dwayne was just too good. But to be fair, epic drive from him, and also good to see Rob recover the third. That was an awesome recovery drive from him too.
It was indeed, yeah, from both of those drivers sharing the podium with you this afternoon. And I see, curiously, how much do you feel like you're being held up all that much by Dan there in that mid phase, given he hadn't pitted and you guys were sort of there, but not quite there for a while, it seemed, and we were wondering if maybe he could hang on just long enough to make it work, or whether a caution would come swooping in to give him a chance to put a fresh set of tyres on, and probably be a situation where you would probably respond if there was another pit stop or another caution to give you guys a free pit stop to make sure you had fresh rubber to the finish if that hypothetical ever happened.
It kind of depended on when it was, because obviously the joys of one of the good things, well, good, bad, don't know, sort of either or. I think good really. One of the things with the new tyre obviously model is that, I mean, unless the tyres are absolutely munted, having that sort of safety car caution period, they sort of cool off and sort of get back some performance again, obviously, as they cool off and then come back to temp again. Once you go back racing, there's kind of those first few laps, they're not too bad. It's not until obviously things come back up to temp that you start to get that disadvantage. So would have depended on that. I think I would have stayed out, but honestly, I was tempted on that one. I think it was about 60, whenever the last one was, 60 to go, whatever it was. I was nearly going to do it then, but then I saw obviously Dan didn't, and I thought, no, I think track position's too key around Martinsville, because it's just so hard to pass. It would have been interesting for sure. But yeah, credit to Dan, he drove fantastic. I think he was having to save fuel there at the end. I heard him say over the in-game there, he's saying he was having to save fuel too. So epic drive from him just to bring it home off no stops. He did very, very well. So it was good to see him get a result with that.
Yeah, it was indeed. Well, we'll see the majors back in action for the Classic Daytona 2.4. The Nissan GTP and the Audi 90 GTO will make their appearance at Legacy Daytona as well. So 2 and a bit hours of racing there to come up. Back to a bit more long-form road racing action. Thoughts on what that'll be like for you if you're all set and ready to go for that one when that comes around in a couple of weeks' time?
It'll be something, that's for sure. I mean, I think last time majors ran it, well, from my memory, I missed some of the races in 2019, but last time I remember they did it was 2018, I think, and I did do it in the Nissan, and that was a lot of fun. I was in the America split too, except for I played it and sort of didn't get the result I probably should have, but anyway, it was good fun. But yeah, it's going to be very full on, because obviously old style cars, so you don't have the sort of assist that modern, or downforce even, that modern cars have, and with all that power, it's going to be intense. So it'll be tiring, and then also the joys of it is that it's on the same weekend as the Logitech G Invitational Series. It's got Bear Bathurst 1000 on that weekend, so it's going to be something. So going to be pretty dead at the end of that weekend. So we'll see. I'll see how we go. I'll just be happy to get a decent result, honestly. Given that weekend's looking like being pretty packed, and we'll also, there's just lots of stuff going on that weekend. So it's gonna be something. So I'll be happy to just get a result, frankly, from that one.
Fair points there, indeed. Hinsey, before I let you go, who do you want to thank tonight for the result?
Obviously, big thanks to Jinx Shifters. They were the main one on the car. And huge kudos to Henry. Every car we use for majors, he puts together the livery, even if it's obviously just being used for the one time and that's it. So big kudos to Henry for putting another spectacular livery. was good having the red there. It sort of obviously stood out a bit from the sort of darker colours on the grid there, so it was cool to have that. So big thanks to Henry for that. Big thanks obviously to Mike and everyone at Majors for, again, just as always, just so smoothly run, and it's always great to run Majors. And a big kudos to really the rest of the field too. International, it's a small group, but we all have a huge respect for each other, and everyone races really well, really hard but clean. So big kudos to them, and big kudos to you guys for putting on a great show.
There we are. Thank you. Thomas in second place today in the Virginia 300. And that leaves us with one final driver to chat to, the man who started on pole but had to work his way back into it. Reese Gardner going to chat to Robert Northway here as our third place finisher.
I am indeed. Welcome, Rob, and congratulations on your fight back through the field. Just take us through what happened at the start, though, because apparently there was a bit of an infringement there with the restart zone.
Well, I don't know what the infringement was for, but it gave me a jump start, and I went on the green and inside the restart zone, so I don't know what happened there. I think the game glitched out a wee bit, but I had to made the night a lot tougher than I wanted.
Yeah, it did. Well, fortunately, a couple of cautions came out early on and you were able to get the lucky dog twice over and get yourself back onto the lead lap. From then, it was just a case of working your way up through the field. I am making it sound a lot easier than it was, though, aren't I?
Oh, it was very, very difficult at times, especially the way some of them were defending quite hard. A couple of them, James Thomas was defending real hard. It took me about 20 laps to get by him. And Dan Stevens, the driver for the race, in my opinion, freaking no stops, and the way he was holding me off was pretty impressive.
Yeah, certainly was. You had to get the old chrome bumper out there to get past him at the end, but either way, it is a third place for you, which means you should maintain the lead of the championship going into the Classic Daytona 2.4. So all the same, might not have been a pole to win night for you, but still, pretty good night.
Yeah, I'll take it. I was hoping for more from this. I felt like I had pace to win, but third place on a bad night, on night of a recovery night, is definitely a good result.
That it is. Well, who do you have to thank for it, Robert?
Just the usual boys, the tech guys at Satellite Racing, especially Dallas with his beautiful setups he's been sharing, and boys at KSR and Speed Nation as well, and just my family as usual.
Well, thanks very much for joining us, Robert Northway. Hopefully we get a chance to chat to him after the next round of the majors, Dan, which is the Classic Daytona 2.4. We're going to be racing at the road course at Daytona International Speedway in the 1980s sports cars. The Nissan GTP ZX Turbo and the Audi 90 GTO. Both turbo, the Audi's four-wheel drive and H-pattern gearboxes. It is going to be crazy good.
Is the glory days, some would say, when it comes to sports car racing. Yeah, big turbos, big spools up, so be great fun to watch these guys ring it around. One of the great sports car venues in the world, of course, now home to the Rolex Daytona 24, but it's just 2.4 hours for us. We'll keep things a little bit more nice and short there, given it's a solo driver affair. And, well, yep, Saturday the 22nd of October, it'll be 5:45 p.m. Now, I must note, it'll be Australian Eastern Daylight Time when that one rolls. Actually, no, pardon me, we might not be changing. It will be Daylight Time. Just confirmation there. We are changing over to Daylight Time in alignment with Sydney and Melbourne time for that one there. So, a reminder to the drivers, if they are the drivers and viewers who are not observing Daylight Time, in this part of the world, you'll have to roll your clocks 1 hour backward from that one there to catch us when we go live on that Saturday 22nd.
Indeed, we will. One more thanks to the crew that puts together the Major Series. Big thanks to the drivers for putting on such a fantastic show. And don't forget to head on over to stackup.org to check out Stack Up, the charity that we are supporting for this round, helping out veterans by promoting positive mental health, combating veteran suicide through gaming and geek culture. I'm Reese Gardner. It's Dan Yeaman alongside me in the comms box, and Jay Kennedy, of course, making everything happen behind the scenes here on SimSpeed TV. We say goodbye for now, but not forever.
fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got rid of the outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God. Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?